All right. I think we're live. What's going on? Drew Outstanding, the outstanding vet here. This is our first episode of Let's Get Physical Media. I
Nice.
got KratosElGratos here. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, it's great to hear. I just checked. I was looking on YouTube to see if the stream was good. It looks good to me. Um, yeah, I got a. I brought my. I did the assignment. I brought the physical media to show on the first episode.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Just tell me a little bit. Tell us about who you are. What are
Oh,
you
well,
about? What do you do online?
the main thing that I try to push is I do a lot of watch parties. So we do movie nights with Cloud from Ballbusters, movie nights with True Pop Culture. Basically, anytime I find out that somebody hasn't watched something iconic, I fix them. So try
I
to
like that.
try to spread good media. I know there's a lot of slop out there right now, and I'm all about going back and watching the old stuff. But yeah, mostly just hang out with other people from the fellowship, and um, I guess that's the key word there is fellowship, right? Um, the link to the fellowship Discord. I think you have it. We do a bunch of stuff on there. We just hang out. Anytime there's a meetup, I try to facilitate. People hanging out. If anybody needs a ride somewhere, that's what the whole point of the Discord is to cross pollinate and meet each other and just have fellowship. So
Awesome. So you're
what
saying
I'm all
like
about.
when somebody hasn't seen something iconic, are you the
Oh yeah.
type that shames them right away and then brings them over,
Well,
or are you a little bit give them a little more grace?
a little. I'm more on the gray side, but sometimes I'm just true pop. Okay, let me tell you a story. We were watching 28 Days Later. Great, great movie.
Yep.
And the third one's coming out this summer. I'm kind of excited to see that.
The trailer was awesome. That's a real trailer.
Yeah. And so we were watching that movie, and in the movie, the main character uses the baseball bat to kill zombies, and one of the other characters refers to him as Babe Ruth. And True Pop said, "Oh, who's Babe Ruth?" And so the first thing that came to mind was the scene from The Sandlot, and
Yeah,
so
that's
I
what I was
asked,
just thinking.
and so I asked him if he had seen The Sandlot, and he said no to that as well. And I'm like, all right, next week we're watching The Sandlot. So, um, yeah, I mean, I gave him shit for that, but the funny thing is, he was trying to say, oh, it's a British thing. He didn't know like the American baseball players, and I'm like, yeah, but 28 Days Later is a British movie, so there's no
Right.
excuse there.
No, and that's a
Particularly,
good example of
yeah,
cross pollination. You got the Sandlot, or you got Babe Ruth. You got
yeah,
Sandlot. You got 28 Days, weeks later.
yeah.
All that stuff is just and all over the world. That's good.
On a
Good mix.
on a quick tangent, 28 Weeks Later, the sequel to 28 Days Later, has an ending that I'm curious. Basically, if the third movie is going to consider the ending of the second one canon, or if they're going to deviate from it.
Yeah, I'd have to rewatch both of those. Oh, I will rewatch before
Yeah,
the next one comes out because I think I just saw them one. It was a one and done kind of deal.
yeah.
But
It. Anyways, so what about you?
yeah, I mean, I've worked on this other stream or channel, YouTube, Operation Outstanding in Field. That's where
Yep.
I do more of my, I guess, speaking engagements. I've done adaptive sports, so that's kind of my
Nice.
main channel is where I do a lot of different things. It's kind of more of my career kind of centric, where I want to make this one Physical Media Warriors, just kind of dedicated to pop culture, with an emphasis on physical media rather than digital. So physical media meaning,
Hmm.
disc, DVD, Blu-ray, what else? Vinyl, so like music, film, shows, books, just if you
Yep.
don't if you can't hold it, you don't own it. So that kind of thing where we're in that proverbial AI taking over, you know, the
Hmm.
T-1000s, all that Skynet, all kind of stuff. It's like we've been watching, you know, these movies and shows for, you know, decades now of artificial intelligence. And before that, you know, people were writing books about the whole thing. And now it just seems like every conversation I'm in, just work related or whatever, is like, oh yeah, I was using Chat GPT for this, or, you
Hmm.
know, jump on a Zoom call, Teams, all this. And it's just, we're in this more digital kind of function, and it's fine. I try to relate it to when electricity came out. I try to imagine what that was like for people around that time. Be like, what are you talking about? Sending messages over the wire, you know,
Hmm.
from different states to the different countries, and then it just spurred, you know, the whole, well, you know, printing press was first,
Yeah.
and then the whole, you know, phone where you just, it was like, I heard the original, it was like one number, so whoever had a phone,
Hmm.
they were number one, and then you had two, and then you know, up to like whatever, nine maybe,
You're right.
and then it just skyrocketed from there, the technology, and then you get the, you know, planes, and then you get all the wars, and so now
Right.
we're in this like cyber digital age where it's wild. So just the memories, the nostalgia that we have of going to the theater, your first movie, your favorite movie, you know, when you had the Thursday midnight showings and just lining up. I was there in, you know, 2008 time in college, lining up to see Dark Knight, uh,
Mm.
that opening night, and Iron Man and all those, and it was a different feeling. And it's cool that we now have more of a community, a fellowship like you're talking about, um, where we do it, you know, throughout the country, throughout the world. And it's crazy. My vocabulary is just getting different, hearing, you know, people like Disparu and Az and Shad and all these
Mhm.
other guys, you know, just using different words,
Mhm.
um, and just understanding a different thing. It's cool, but
Words
it's
like
even
what?
better when we meet in person and we do these like meetups, which are freaking amazing.
Mhm. What kind of words are you talking about? Like,
Uh, I mean, I know they talk, instead of seasons for shows, they talk about series, where we
right.
think series as the whole show. And I know Disbury uses that often, where he's like, "Oh yeah, series 2, series 3," you know,
Oh,
and they
interesting.
use it interchangeably now, probably where they understand, you know, other people
How
in the
much of that
audience.
how much of that do you think might be a British thing?
Yeah, that's the thing. It could be a British, it could be a Europe, you know, type deal, or
Crisps.
yeah, you know, and
Call
or the
chips
lift.
crisps.
I like
No.
Disparu. Like I can, that's why I listen to Disparu's takes on the Robin in the Hood, and
Oh, yeah.
Secret Invasion. Like I did not watch Secret Invasion
Me
just
neither.
because, for one, I canceled Disney Plus by that time. For two, was just, it was horrible, and I was the guy that watched every MCU thing, and I'm like,
Mhm.
I just can't do it anymore. I think I lost it when it came to like She-Hulk or one that I'm like, nope, I'm done. I'm done. This is just, you lost me. But he was watching all those shows and then doing his
Mhm.
interpretation, scene by scene, which is freaking amazing. So yeah, just watching him do Secret Invasion, I'm like, yep, this is a better experience than watching it myself. And yeah, but yeah, the whole point is, yeah, just having those conversations, sharing the nostalgia, because a lot of us are different ages or
Yep.
different interests, and just kind of sharing that whole conversation with
Yeah,
people is
that's a
kind of
it's a
cool.
good point you bring up. Different ages is definitely one um one aspect of like being able to share something with people who are just younger and they just didn't get a chance to experience it. Like if it came out before they were born in theaters, or they don't show stuff on TV anymore. As far as I know, I don't have TV, so I don't know. I don't have cable.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, disconnecting the cord, the cable,
Yeah,
the last whatever, you know, different people got off at different
yeah.
times. I think 10 years or more now that I haven't had
Hmm.
traditional cable.
But yeah, just so that's one thing that I enjoy doing is um, exposing people to something that they may not have seen, because then for me, I get to kind of vicariously experience it the first time through them. And you ever want to just like, whether it's a game or a movie, do you ever want to like be able to temporarily, like in Total Recall, just like erase part of your memory and just be able to experience it for the first time again?
Yeah, yeah, I would. Yeah, there's so many like that.
Oh, so many. But
Well,
yeah, well,
yeah,
so
you
younger.
mentioned that because, yeah, there's some movies that are good for that. They're, you know, that you wish you could see it just again or see it through it. Like examples
Yeah.
I think of are like Fight Club. Like
Yeah.
once you watch it the first time, it's like,
Yep.
wow,
It-
this
it- I would
world
throw
shattering. And
I
then
would
you
throw
watch it again and
Inception
you're
in
like,
there.
yep, Inception, Memento. Yeah, those things are
Yes.
just awesome. And if you can watch it with other people for the first time, that's very cool.
Yeah. But then even besides just like an age difference, there's also with True Pop, he doesn't get to experience a lot of American stuff because he lives in Britain. So if there was something that was popular in America that he didn't know about, or last year when he came to Vegas, we got him like biscuits and gravy. Even just that simple thing of just like we got to give him his first biscuits and gravy experience. That was amazing.
Right. Well, yeah,
Um,
that's the thing too. I've heard the other guys talk about different. Well, they make assumptions about what food we like as Americans,
oh right.
and some of it's maybe point on, but some of it's just like no way. Like I don't think I didn't have biscuits and gravy until I joined the army at
Hmm.
19 years old, and I'm like, what are you even talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Same for
wild.
me. It wasn't until later in life when I had like a chicken fried steak. See, I moved to Texas in 2005. So sometime after that is the first time I ever had chicken fried steak because I used to live in Arizona. So like before that, I didn't even know what it was. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the
Uh,
thing about America. It's different regions, different,
yep.
3,000 miles, and then, the 50 states. It's all different cultures and stuff like that. So it's wild. Yeah, we just have a mix of everything.
And then okay, so then the other thing is with Cloud. Cloud's the same age as me. He lives in America, but he is just um, what's the best, most courteous way of saying this? It's like he's had a veil over his eyes his entire life, and he just hasn't experienced um, a lot of movies, shows, anything that like most '80s movies he's just never seen. Die Hard. So we watched that. We watched Rambo, Rocky, Schwarzenegger movies, you name it. Like all the stuff from the '80s that's iconic that was referenced in everywhere from like Animaniacs to other big movies.
Simpsons, like,
Yeah,
yeah,
Simpsons.
a
You'll
lot of
see like
shows will, do however you want to put it, parodies,
yeah,
So they'll do a 30-minute show about a movie like The Goonies or
right.
whatever.
Or even just references. Like you'll see
Oh
whatever
yeah.
some Jim Carrey movie, and he just does a Schwarzenegger impression in a scene, and um, those are the kind of things that just get lost on people who, if they didn't know
Yeah.
the culture of the area,
It's
especially
like
pop
the
culture.
Captain America. I understood that reference.
Yeah,
He
exactly.
didn't he didn't get all the other ones, but he got Wizard of Oz.
Nice.
Which is cool because it makes you think, be like, okay, that person is from this part of the world or this time period or whatever. Like we're talking about ages, where
Right.
yeah, because like that's why I watched the Avengers not too long ago, and I'm like, it still holds up because I really wanted to test, like, are the current ones really that
Hmm.
bad? And they are. I just recently watched Iron Man and Avengers, and I'm like, wow, just the effort they put into it. Because yeah,
Yeah.
when they do that writing, be like, oh yeah, Cap isn't getting all the references. Tony is talking about Galaga and all these things, and
Hmm.
totally missing it. But then he mentions flying monkeys or whatever. He's like,
Hmm.
got that one. I'm part of the group now, and then it's like, yeah, welcome to the group. Because Cap went into the ice, what, around
In World War II.
1945? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, before the war was supposedly over in, their universe.
Right.
But yes, and then you think about it, and Wizard of Oz came out in what, like 1939, something like that.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh yeah, he had to be able to watch it, which was iconic at the time. And yeah, it's wild.
Random total tangent. I was watching through Snow White a few maybe a couple months ago at this point, but and I was watching that, and I was just coming to the realization that this came out when Hitler was alive, and he probably watched it.
Yeah, that's wild to think about.
Like
I think
even
we're
like
not supposed to say that
before.
word on
Oh,
stream. I don't know. I don't know all these. And that's the thing, everybody who's watching, listening to us, like, we're learning, or at least I am. I'm learning all these like little, you know,
You call him
etiquette.
Funny Mustache Man. Yeah, you can
Yeah,
censor me on the
yeah.
replay.
I watched a lot of, you know, YouTube, and then the last year I've been on other people's streams, and then been co-hosting lately. So I'm getting used to all this whole format. And then yeah, those who don't know me, 4 years ago now, I developed a neuromuscular illness, Guillain-Barré syndrome. Basically, uh, my immune system turned on my body and thought the body was the enemy, started shredding everything from nerves, organs, all stuff like that. So I had to be put into a coma. It's a neuromuscular illness, meaning mind and muscles and everything. All my
Mm.
systems shut down. So I really haven't been on a computer, like a desktop computer, other than the last like 6 months. I've been doing everything from a phone, which is
Right.
crazy. You know, you can do a lot from a phone, but you miss, like, you know, the whole driving a mouse and doing all these many things at once.
Right.
And it's definitely overstimulating,
Yeah.
going through what I have. But the
Like,
amount that changes in 4 years in technology, you don't really notice it because you just get used to it, you know, everything. But like I said, with like the whole Zoom Teams, all these different ones. So now
yep.
I'm trying to restream. So I got the free version right now. I'm working with Mo Zamboni. He's showing me a
Yep.
lot of cool stuff behind the scenes. So looking at a new one there. And yeah, so going back to like the whole point of this channel or this show, or talking about the channel, Physical Media Warriors, is I want to just document finding new physical media. So like, you know, we'll talk about all these. So like finding like Men of Honor. Like I watched this when it came out. What was it, like 98, something like that? So then it's like remembering when I watched it for the first time, why I liked it,
Hmm.
the age I was. Now I found this at a garage sale. They're selling it for like $1. You know, I try to get like, you know, 10 or more and be like, hey, give me a deal for all these. And then that works. Come back, you know, try to make sure it works, which usually they do. If not, I found out ways to like clean old physical media too, which is kind of cool.
Hmm.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, are you a reseller? And I'm like, nope, I'm a collector. Like, that's what I want
Yeah.
to do. I kind of collect these things, and mainly all the movies that I watched a while ago, and then just have it as like a time capsule. And so, yeah, so I'm going to give updates of like where I find the physical media, and then watch it, talk about it, break it down like we're talking about, you know, Fight Club, Inception, what
Yeah.
have you. And then who knows? Yeah, it could just turn into different variations of shows and stuff like that. It's just I
Yeah.
want to
I'm
be
here
able to
for it.
document, and yeah, and share it with, you know, you and other people that have interest in certain ones.
Yeah. Not to jump the gun on anything, but when it comes to the white whale, the physical media that you've been looking for forever, do you have anything that comes to mind that if you saw it at a garage sale, you would just spend whatever they were selling it for?
Well, when it comes to retro games, anytime I see that stuff, I'm picking it up. So I
Yeah.
recently picked up an Xbox 360, and they had an
Mhm.
Xbox 360 and Xbox One. And I've never touched an Xbox One. It was just after my time when I was into gaming.
Mhm.
But I'm like, and it said like $50 for the Xbox 360 and 80 for the one. And they look like they were in okay condition, but I actually came back like to the guys, the fellowship. I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
what what are these two worth? Is it worth even getting it? Because it was like a nicer neighborhood, and
Right.
they're like, we're upgrading, just get rid of the stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to pass up opportunity.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I went back and talked to people like, yeah, that's a good deal, especially if it's this, even if, you know, you just use the hard, like, all these things. You're like, yeah, that sounds like a good buy as long as it works. And I tested it when I was there. It's
Mhm.
just as easy as hooking it up to power and a screen, which they had at the garage sale.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like an old lady, and you know, it was like her son that like went off to college, and
Right.
he was just like, all right, mom, get rid of all the consoles that I'm not using.
Man,
And so I'm
he's
like,
gonna regret that.
yeah,
I feel like he
maybe.
will.
Yeah, maybe, you know, 20 years later or something like that. But yeah, he's got all the current PS5,
Yeah.
Xbox, you know, whatever. And
Good for
so,
you, but probably
and I'm
sucks
like,
for him.
hey, I'll give you $100 for both. And they
Yeah.
immediately said yes. And which is cool because like, and that's the thing, I can't walk very well. I got a lot of mobility issues, so I can't
Mhm.
go to like, you know, all these stores and places like I used to. But I can go to like a garage sale, walk up with my braces and cane and
Mhm.
stuff like that, and then just negotiate, kind of learn somebody's stories, say like, oh, you're into all these movies or games or whatever. And so, yeah, that was a long-winded thing to just say, like, you can find some cool stuff. So last week I picked up pretty much a Wii and like the different things in the box, barely used, for like $100 for all these different Wii accessories. It's pretty much, it probably would have been like $1,000 new. And so, and I hear like Wii is pretty much getting more quality, like Wii and GameCube. And that's a cool thing. Like, I'm learning more about like the value of things. For one, physical media has gone up in the last 5 or so years, just with people being home, might have extra cash, all this stuff. So people have been buying and selling physical media. So, but I'm just in it to collect it.
Yeah, you reminded me of something like, I have a friend who, basically everything was lost, in a move. Trying to remember. Pretty sure I'm thinking of Shaka Zulu. You know him?
Yep.
Yeah, because he tells this. Okay, yeah, I'm just remembering if I was thinking it was somebody else or not. But he tells the story about how, when his parents got divorced, there was one of them kept a whole bunch of stuff in storage, and then that stuff ended up getting lost, and so he lost years and years of childhood memories in the form of save files and games, all of the games and consoles that he had. And speaking of physical media, this isn't something that I thought that I was going to talk about, but when it comes to save files on games, I've been trying to figure out how can I get my GameCube memory cards backed up somewhere.
Oh, sure. Good call.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like 64 had memory cards.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Just because like just hours and hours and hours that I spent in F-Zero GX. Did you ever play that one?
Like once or twice.
Okay, so that one had a ship creator, whatever. You race with ships. I forget what they're actually called. Cars, hover cars, whatever the word is. The racing vehicles, the vehicle creator. Sure, it's called that. Just all sorts of customization that you could do, and just a ton of hours in that. And to me, like, having the game is one thing, but the game itself is replaceable. It's the save file that's irreplaceable.
Yep.
Have you ever like loaded up an older game that you played like decades ago and just like, oh yeah, I remember. Now I named my dog this or whatever, right?
Yeah, the
Go in there and
screen
look around.
names or the usernames that we used to use.
That too, yeah.
Kind of like the old AOL Instant Messenger and stuff. If you're around that time.
Yep.
Yeah,
a little
those
bit.
are wild. But yeah, to answer your question from before, like what would be my white whale? I mean, anything old Star Wars. So I think this is the oldest one I have right now. So VHS.
Yeah.
The 3 of them in the set. This was the one before the 96 remastered or re-release and everything like that.
Right.
But there are older versions than this, and yeah, if I can get any of those, I'm picking them up.
I was gonna say the Star Wars Christmas special.
Sure.
That.
Like, I'll take it. I was always into Star Wars, not Star Trek, but I'm collecting both of them right now. So I found a lot of Star Trek, but I haven't watched any of them.
Not so much because the Christmas special is good. I've seen it. It's just that the actual artifact of it on a VHS tape is like nerd holy grail, basically, right?
Yep.
So
no, it's cool. Yeah, I mean the idea is they're not making more of this stuff, so it's just going to get more and more rare as times go on. And the whole idea, like going back to like digital, where it's like they can, well, for one, it's on a streaming service, so it's probably gonna be a lower quality than you can have on physical media, depending on the type and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then they can edit, like they can release, like they did this with Mandalorian, where they released an episode and then there was a dude in like denim jeans or something like that in the background. And then where that would be like a cool find back in the day, they just go in and like chop it up and like it never happened. And then so that's like a error type mentality. But then the other side is like, say the conversation, say it's like a Blazing Saddles type thing, where it's like, okay,
Right.
maybe, that doesn't work for modern day, not in my opinion, but in a lot of
Right.
people's like, oh, let's just change what they said. We can easily go in and manipulate it and stuff like that. And it's like that's like going to the Mona Lisa and like, and changing stuff that because it doesn't make sense currently.
Right.
So,
Well, okay. So how deep do you want to go into this? Because I've got a whole rant about what Disney Plus does.
yeah, we can keep going. When you get to like the top of the hour, we can dive into so I wanted, since it is Memorial Day
Yeah.
happen on Monday, I got a couple physical media, the ones I could find
Okay.
to go over. So at the top of the hour, we'll go kind of more to the Memorial Day
Sure.
theme movies. But yeah, for the next little bit, let's just go at it.
Yeah. So what Disney Plus does with their edits, I think is the worst example of this that I've seen as far as the retconning, the 1984 style, like, oh, this is always what it was, right? And most people would never even know.
Right.
Like you get okay, so there's examples of like so Always Sunny in Philadelphia, they took out certain episodes from streaming. Um, and to me, that's like okay, if you don't want to provide the episodes legitimately, you also shouldn't um, care if anybody gets it from Jack Sparrow. Like
Right.
if you don't want to provide the episode because it's against your conscience and that's all well and good. And Disney is the same thing with uh shoot, what's that movie? The one where Zippity Doodah song is from.
Uh,
Song of the South.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Immediately got it.
Well, Mary
Song of the
Poppins has theirs, right? But then there's
South.
also Song of the
There's that
South.
too, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's quite a few.
so Song of the South, a lot of people have a problem with that. They just recently completely updated Splash Mountain to get rid of all references to that movie, and instead it's now supposed to be references to Princess and the Frog, which that's a whole other conversation and a disaster. But yeah, so like if a company, whoever owns the IP, wants to say, well, it's against our conscience to make money off of this, that's fine, and they're not going to make it available. But they also shouldn't have a problem with people obtaining it from other ways.
Yeah. Well,
And I
South
think
Park
that's a
did
good
that
middle ground.
too, where it's like, okay, we're not gonna or whatever, Comedy Central, Viacom, whatever it
Right.
is, we're not gonna, release these again, certain episodes, but they release them on disc. Or I think Family Guy like had ones like the Stewie episodes or something like that. Yeah, so there is an alternative. And is that what you're kind of saying? Is like when they say like, nope,
Yeah.
that never
Well,
existed.
well,
What are you talking about?
well, even if they don't, let's say they go as far as they're not even going to put it on the DVD set, right? They just at that point it should just be public domain, and
Good
you should
point.
be able to just have it for free. That's what I'm trying to say. Is like
Yep.
anybody who wants it can get it, but they're basically saying that's what I think is a good compromise, right? If they want to just you know completely divorce themselves from that and say, yeah, it was a different time and whatever, but then to make it public domain and then not care if anybody has it for free. I think that's fine.
Yeah,
But
I like that idea, especially if they're not going to be in the habit of releasing physical media like they used to.
exactly. Can you
Yeah,
hear my
and
dog crunching on that bone?
I don't hear anything.
Okay, you're good. I
Yeah,
don't know what restream picks up and what it doesn't, but let me know if it becomes obvious. He's occupied right now, but
yeah, no
uh,
worries.
anyways, but yeah. So to Disney Plus, there's three different ways that they've been retconning stuff. Some of them I'm kind of okay with, and others I'm really not. And so one of them is just there's an example where in Ms. Marvel, canonically in the MCU, the Statue of Liberty was supposed to have been rebuilt. So instead of it being green, it should have been copper colored, right?
Right.
And so they went back and they made that correction. Stuff like that I might appreciate, right? If they're going to go in and say, well, it was a lore breaking mistake, right? If it's
Like
something little,
historical.
well, I wouldn't maybe not as far as like historical inaccuracies. Like again, it depends on the severity of the change. If it's like, oh yeah, because they added the Statue of Liberty in digitally anyways, and so like, oh yeah, we can go fix that really quick. It was supposed to be copper colored to align with Spider-Man movie or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Yeah, I can't remember what the whole deal with it is. Yeah, but in
Yeah,
Spider-Man No Way Home.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's to fix an inconsistency or some other reason why it might just be a not a plot hole necessarily, but just yeah, I mean it could be considered a plot hole. Like, oh well, like some inconsistency in the movie. You can think of a million examples. The one there's another example, one that I'm much less okay with, but I can still maybe see some argument for it, which is getting rid of things like crew members being seen in the scene when they were not supposed to be. So like mistakes that were made. I get it on a level of like, okay, so you see the dude, with, or you can see the microphone on the boomstick or whatever it's called, right?
Yep.
Or you see somebody on their coffee break in the background and they're not supposed to be in the shot. Um, but you get to other things that are like in the original Star Wars, like the stormtrooper hitting his head on the door,
Yeah.
right? And that was a mistake, but they leaned into it. In future releases, they added a sound effect to it even.
Right. And then, but where's the line? Because
Yeah,
actors will ad lib, and sometimes that's makes the movie,
yeah,
the scene, whatever, even better. Like,
yeah,
yeah, there's been a lot, like really good actors can do that in a professional way, and a good director will
yeah.
compromise.
But like when a mistake leads to somebody, or more of a cult thing of like, when you're rewatching the movie with your friends, everybody's on the lookout for the stormtrooper hitting his head on the door,
Yeah.
or the people in the background who are pretending to fight, not actually fighting in the battle, right? Stuff like that. They become these little things. Oh, did you notice it? And you can point it out to people.
Yep.
Um, and if you go through and you whitewash it and you remove those things, it just removes that part of the experience, right? If it's something that's just so blatantly obvious, then I mean, it probably shouldn't have made it past the editing room in that case. But it's because it's those blink and you miss it, or those hard to see things, that I think gives them a little bit more heart. And I don't think they should take them out.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like that's what it's part of the project.
Yeah,
And because where does it end too? Because we're
exactly.
getting all these movies that go into whatever, what is it called? Like reshoots, and
Yeah,
I don't want to get too much current stuff, but yeah, like Superman and all the uh, MCU movies, superhero. It seems like a lot of these things are like, oh yeah, we got done filming, now we're gonna do post, but now
right,
we're gonna bring the actors back again, and yeah, it just doesn't feel right because in business, in products, you eventually have to get it out to market,
right.
like it. Especially
You have
people that
to
are passionate
event.
about something, they,
Yeah,
they would never release their product. Like you would never have, the iPhone or anything because you would just keep making it better and
yep.
better, and it
You
would
just keep
never get
polishing
released.
it, right?
Yeah, and you can't keep doing that forever. Eventually, you have to let it out to the public,
Yeah,
even with its faults.
yep. And so then, to me, the worst thing that Disney Plus has done is the edits to Falcon and Winter Soldier. While I don't like the show, um, what I like even less is the liberties that Disney Plus took with the edits. So what they did, if you're not familiar, there were some pretty bloody scenes in there. Basically they went through and they took a bunch of the blood out, and then there was even one scene where one of the people gets impaled through the chest with some rebar or something, and they get like pinned
Really,
against the wall.
this
Yeah,
was the show Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
yeah,
Yeah, I watched
and
that one, and see, I'll tell you what I heard about it, and you tell me. Sounds like you know more, but
uh,
what I heard it was going to be a completely different plot that mirrored a lot that happened in reality around 2020 and 2021,
mm,
and then they shifted it a lot uh, based on true events and changed a lot of things. Is that what you heard too?
well that yeah, but what I was so you're that's more like the pre-production stuff.
Right.
What I'm talking about is after the show was out. Um, Sometime later they went back and removed bloody parts.
Oh, I didn't know that because
They
I
edited it
watched
out.
it as it released.
Yeah, me too. But there was that scene where the guy gets impaled with the rebar and he gets like pinned against the wall, and then they took out the rebar and the blood, and it just looks like he's getting pinned against the wall by nothing. So
So they basically, well, yeah. So yeah. So for one, it changes the
yeah,
whole thing, but for two, they, how do I put it? Like they basically brought down the rating if there was a
yeah,
rating. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like say it
They're trying
was
to make it more friendly,
PG-13 and they
family
brought it
friendly.
down to PG
Yep.
in order to probably sell it to more younger audiences,
Right.
which there's more of, there's usually more of. It
Yeah.
depends on the generation. I've looked into this
And
before. It's whoever has the money basically. And right
yeah,
now, I can't remember how
exactly.
old you are, but yeah, I'm 40, and it's like millennials have the disposable money right now.
I'm 35 for reference. That gives us
Sure.
gives you an idea of what kind of stuff we might have grown up watching.
Yeah.
Um,
No, and that's wild because then you're just doing this stuff not for art, but in order to just sell even more
well,
of it, you
I
know?
could understand maybe if they had a setting on there that was, like okay, I'll get to this in a minute. They have TV edits for a lot of movies and stuff that when
Yeah,
they
your
show the movie,
TNT, PBS.
yes, and they'll have certain things edited out, whatever. Um, but I could understand maybe if they did that, but in the case of Falcon and Winter Soldier, people actually noticed it and complained about it, and then they changed it back. And so then
Really? I didn't know that.
what worries me is like how much stuff are they doing that we're not noticing? And it gets even to the point of like Mandela effect territory. Like, wait,
It
did
does,
he?
yeah, because then it gets more of a psychological thing,
Yeah,
'cause
you
then
get
you're
like
claiming, like it's like a gaslighting, be like,
exactly.
this," well, for one, yeah, we have experience with this with TBS, TNT, all the cable versions of 007
Yeah,
all the action movies, Die Hard, all that kinda stuff
yep,
back then, but it made sense because everyone's watching cable. And for two, they had to meet it at a certain time frame in order to have commercials and have a
yeah,
good start and stop at the top of the hour, half an hour.
hmm,
It's like, okay, you can give it some leeway because that's not the same version.
yeah,
But at the same time, when they release it in one format and then they change that same format, you're getting a completely different film. And like you said,
yeah,
when it leads to complete inaccuracies, because then who's doing it? Is it some 22-year-old, communications, whatever
right,
major, who's making it based on their own bias?
right.
Or worse off, is it an AI program that says go in and remove any blood? I don't know, something
Yeah,
like that.
like who, if you, the problem with having a power like that is then who's in control of that power. And, you know, whatever in the future, you might have some crazy person in charge of Disney who wants to replace all of X with Y or whatever, right? To fit whatever current day stuff is going on. I don't like that the ability is there, treating shows like software updates
Right.
where and like cuz like you said, like you need to get your product to a point of being ready to release and then you put it out there and it's done. And now we're getting to the point where like even movies that have come out, I can't remember which ones, but like there was some example of a movie that was in theaters that like after a week or two, if you went and saw it in theaters, they had a different version.
I heard about that.
Do you remember the specific example? Because I can't remember
No.
exactly. Yeah,
It might come to me later, but yeah,
yeah,
I've heard of that where it's like if you were the one that saw it on Thursday or Friday or whatever,
yeah,
you saw a certain version, and then the week later, other
yeah.
people saw a different one.
Freaking
And
movies are getting day one patches.
yeah, and I'm not a big current gamer,
Right.
but that's what I've been hearing is like
Games too.
you get the yeah, you get the pre one, that some people get access to, which makes sense, like when they have, that alpha and beta and stuff like that versions,
Yeah.
that's not an actual release. Kind of like I
Right.
compare it to like a restaurant. They do their soft opening. It's
Mhm.
like it's not the same as a full on, people
Yeah.
are going, it's the press, it's and that makes sense too with movies. It's like, yeah, if you're gonna have a pre-screening with the press there, um, and that's even a tough subject too. But
Right.
you would think everyone should get the same version once it goes to the public. Yeah, there was some guy. It was maybe, I don't know who it was exactly. It was maybe like a Tarantino type, where it's like, okay, we get to work on it for this long. Once we send it out and push, send or
Yeah.
the public watches it, I'm done. I no longer, for lack of
Right.
a better word, own it. It's part of the public. It's part of
Yeah.
the
Once your creation is out there, it should be out there, pencils down,
yeah.
done.
Well, that
And
was a
that
big thing with South Park and George Lucas with Star Wars
yeah.
and Indiana
Yes,
Jones
exactly.
and Lucasfilm, where it's like I watched that South Park episode, whatever it was, 20 years ago, and it's like, yeah, they're really, going hard on oh, that's probably one
Yes.
of the banned episodes. Is I'm not going to say the words here, rhymes with
Right.
grape,
Right.
graping Star Wars and
Yeah.
Lucasfilm and stuff like that. But it was his own project that he was doing it to, and they're like, "Why are you doing this, George Lucas?"
Right.
And then now it's kind of become a standard in a way.
Yeah, so like talk about I guess the edits to future versions of the Star Wars original trilogy, which back to talking about the white whale of something that I'd like to have. I hear there is a DVD that has the original theatrical cuts of the trilogy.
I heard about that. I would love to have that.
Yeah, that's one that I want.
Yeah, because some of the things was like the Emperor was on, but it wasn't Ian.
Right. It's just some dude in
Whatever it
makeup.
was. Yeah, from what I hear, it was like a monkey or something like that with like prosthetics on or something like that, and it was just like a very like still image or something. I can't remember that. I
Okay.
remember seeing it somewhere. I don't know if I saw it on YouTube or just somebody's video or something like that, and it's like, wow, that was completely different. And then they added the actual actor Ian, was it McDermott?
Yes.
Later on,
I keep thinking McKellen, but yeah, it's
McKellen. Yeah, both are good actors.
right.
I really wish he would have done the sequel trilogies, been in it. It's like, oh man, I wonder how much money they gave you, but man, I wish the Emperor would have ended in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm
And
cool with the prequels of building that up. The
yeah.
prequels are pretty much, they're not Darth Vader's movies. Or Anakin's. It's the Emperor. That's his story. In the prequels.
I think he's one of the only characters that's in all six, the original trilogy and the prequels.
Yeah.
Played by the same actor, I guess. Yeah, now because if you get into whether that was him or not in the recording in A New Hope, then that might be
Then you can count 6,
yeah.
and then what is it? Then he's in the 9th or something. The sequels, I watched them one and I was done. Like
Yeah.
the original trilogy, I can watch it right now. I could pop in those. I do have a working VCR right now, and I would watch those until 2 or 4 a.m. and
Right.
it would be worth it for the next day. Prequels, if I'm in the mood, I could watch.
Yeah.
And for the lightsaber battles, the music, the just the story, I would do them. If I had it up to me, I would do them a lot differently. Some people have talked about like make it pretty much Revenge of the Sith, but have that be like 3 movies. Basically, if you started with Clone Wars, like so instead of Attack of the Clones, it'd be called like Clone Wars, and it would go from Clone Wars, and then you could even encompass like what's the last couple that came out? Well, you got Andor and Rogue One.
Yeah, there's Rogue One, and then there was also the other show, Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah. I watched that during COVID just because I needed something to watch.
That was a very Disney-fied show, but there was a couple of good moments in it that I think made it worth watching.
Yeah, but yeah, if you took and even like the extended universe, like if you took just like have the first episode 1 be called like something like Clone Wars, and you did Clone Wars, Revenge of the Sith style,
well,
what Darth Vader did after, that's what I want to see.
So,
and they've talked about it in video games and stuff like that. But if I could see Darth Vader going around the galaxy and just crushing Jedi, Like,
Yeah,
that would be a great
that's what
game.
everybody wants to see.
Yeah, and I love the Force Unleashed, and that was
Yeah.
kind of a version of that.
So,
But
like,
yeah, do
if
that,
you
and then, Rogue One and Andor, and then lead it right up to A New Hope, or
yeah,
Star Wars, the way most people call it.
right.
Like, that would be my prequel trilogy.
Yeah. Well, because if you cut out the Gungans and you kind of simplify the plot of the Phantom Menace, that could just be the opening scroll.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, the opening
you have
scroll, yeah. You could
even
say,
just
like,
like
"Hey."
some background into like um, Padme, and you might need some of that.
Yeah, very little bit. Yeah, it could be
Yeah,
like a very little bit, enough to, like, build up the characters of Yoda, Qui-Gon,
because
Obi-Wan.
it's just like
Obi-Wan learning, going from Padawan to, just
yeah,
a quick glimpse. We don't need a movie about Obi-Wan being a Padawan, and then, the Jedi Knight in Attack of the
because
Clones.
the only thing that's really important about Phantom Menace is it's showing you the conflict that led up to the Clone Wars happening.
Right, but that could have been like, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
a flashback, but it just.
just opening scroll.
Yep,
Mostly
exactly.
opening scroll, and then you could even have Obi-Wan start the Clone Wars as a Padawan, and
Yep.
during the Clone Wars progress. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, that's just like headcanon stuff, but it's
there's
like,
there's many things
wow.
that could have been done.
Right. And that's
But
fine, it was George Lucas's baby, and a
yeah,
lot of changes did happen in the prequels, in the
yeah.
original trilogy, but.
So back to changes. What I was trying to get to was you get into different cuts of movies as well. So like when it comes to the Disney Plus thing, like even if you had let's say Disney Plus released a DVD or a Blu-ray set of whatever Falcon and Winter Soldier, which version are you getting?
Right.
Um, and when you have to ask yourself the question of like, especially when you're collecting stuff, which version is this? Do maybe you want to have the director's cut and the theatrical cut and the Snyder cut and the whatever? There's how many other
Yeah.
cuts are there, right?
Yeah, then it just gets too many versions, like
It
you're saying, and
it's
then you can't.
complicated.
It goes back to the community and fellowship, is like, we can't say we're having a disagreement
Yeah,
about a certain movie,
yeah.
like, it could just get so much more
Well,
complicated
okay,
than
just
when you
like
talk about, like, Batman versus Superman,
yeah,
the, what are they called? The Ultimate Cut or whatever like that. And I guess, there is precedent for this with the Donner Cut, but that's a little bit
right,
different
right.
with Superman.
Oh man, we just watched that with Cloud, and boy, do I have opinions. But
Yeah, but
the Donner cut of Superman 2, um, most of it I enjoyed the changes. The thing that made the entire movie to me just complete garbage is when he reused the same ending from the first one, and then also there was the cafe scene, which made no sense if he had reversed time.
right.
Just so
And that was a little bit more simple. You get the theatrical version and you get a
yeah,
director's cut. That's the director's job, or, that's their position, so it's like, okay, they're taking responsibility for that. Maybe they're releasing it for whatever
right.
reason. I can kind of understand that,
Yeah,
but
maybe the
going back
studio
to our
came in
conversation
and
about who is actually making these changes,
yeah,
is it a
exactly.
nameless, faceless person? Is it a program? And then it's just like, why even have 10 different versions of one different thing? Yeah,
Yeah.
going back to, like, then the argument, it'd be like, say we're having an argument about a certain movie, we're not even talking about the same version.
Right.
Then
You might not even
then
know.
it's a
that-
waste of time. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. And so like butterfly effect. Maybe one person loved it and one person hated it, and you had seen different versions of the movie and you didn't even realize.
Yep, and that's what I mean. I don't wanna bring up current day news or anything right now, but
Oh
that's
yeah.
kinda like how it is, where, they chop up a version of a speech or
Yes.
whatever, and then it's like, okay,
Yep.
are we talking about the whole, uncut version, or the version that you saw from,
Yeah,
whatever?
people, because of the media, from the legacy media that they're exposed to, you almost have people living in two different realities. Because the best example of this is when Trump fed the koi fish. Do you remember that?
Yeah, and I want to make this kind of evergreen, so I don't want to get too
Yeah,
much into
no worries.
current day news. But
Well, they had like cut it down and they zoomed in on it, and it was a totally
right,
edited version of it. And so everybody who had seen it one way was like, "Oh yeah, Trump's the worst person," but then the other way, it's like, "Oh yeah, that's fine. I don't see anything wrong with that." And so when when you package things up in different ways, and especially if people don't realize there's a difference, you just have people experiencing different realities.
it is, and that's kind of how we started this conversation. Is like, what are we even agreeing on?
Right.
And then all these different versions. We can't connect with each other if we're not watching the same thing. Just
Right.
like going back to when I said I was in college, and me and my buddies. I think we went with a group of like 5, and we're standing in line at midnight to watch The Dark Knight and Iron Man around that same time, and we're talking about like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever, or with Batman, it's like, okay, Batman Begins was a really freaking good movie,
Hmm.
like at that time before Dark Knight, because like, okay, so I saw Batman Begins when I was deployed to Iraq,
Hmm.
and it was like I put off seeing it just because the last version was Batman and Robin, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
like I'll watch that later, like if it's gonna be something like
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze or
You
whatever
had a
like
bad
that,
taste in
like
your mouth from the
yeah,
last one.
yeah, it's like, okay, if it's just gonna be a garbage popcorn movie, kind of like a Fast and the Furious,
Right.
in a way like that. I'll see it later. I got more important things to think
Right.
about. But my buddy was like, no, dude, if you're a Batman fan, superhero, you
Yeah.
gotta watch this. It feels more like the first X-Men at
Yeah.
the time, and that was like what 2000, and I'm talking about 2005. And I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And it blew me away. So
Yep.
it's like, this is incredible. This was the story that I wanted, because I always wanted to see. I never was big into comic books. I had other friends that were, and they're like, yeah, Batman trained as detective, martial arts. He has all these qualities. Even going back to Batman the Animated Series, even like ventriloquism. Like he
Hmm.
had all these, the perfect tool as if,
Disguises.
yeah, as a man getting trapped in whatever to get him out. And so it's like I always wanted to see a live action version of him going through all the actual training. And we got
Yeah.
a little bit of that in
Yeah.
Batman Begins. So then going into Dark Knight, I'm like, I don't know what my expectations are, but it blew my expectations away, especially with
Yeah. I
Joker, Heath Ledger.
yeah. I'll say what I've said before, and I think that The Dark Knight is one of the very, very few sequels that outperform their predecessor in quality.
Yep. Terminator 2, Dark
Yeah.
Knight.
I would say Aliens,
Yep,
and
Aliens.
I can't remember the other
Yeah,
ones.
I call those 2 different movies,
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of horror and sci-fi in a way, but yeah, I see
yeah,
what you're saying.
yeah. Because Aliens, to me, that took the first movie and it put her back into the action in a way that was believable. It flowed well. It was well written,
Yep,
and even though it was a different type of movie, which really even um, uh, Terminator 2 is even kind of a different kind of a movie because it's more of a
correct.
coming of age.
Yeah, they took it
A
in
little
a
bit,
new direction.
yeah, because it was more about the kid and his issues with being a delinquent or having delinquent behaviors or whatever, and so like getting that father figure in his life in the form of Arnold Schwarzenegger a little bit, right?
Yeah,
That
and I like the concept that his mom, well, everyone thought was crazy,
yeah,
was telling him he's gonna be the, and we don't know
right,
how the conversation went because it's not part of
right,
the movie, but it's like, hey, you're gonna grow up and be like the commander of the world against the machines. And it's
right.
like that's a lot to live up to. Like we all have that, at least
That
guys
exactly.
growing up in this like shadow of you got to be the man and all this
Yeah,
stuff. But it's like, imagine hearing that stuff, and he's like a teenager. It's like, I just want to listen to Guns N' Roses and ride a dirt bike. Like, what are
right.
you talking about? And you're in a mental institution, and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, it was such a good concept. Yeah, Terminator 2 is, yeah.
Yeah, one of the. But speaking of different versions, I have 3 different versions of Terminator 2.
Yeah, I've gotten a couple now where it's just like, huh, I didn't know that one existed.
Right.
But at least
Um.
they're honest about it. Like, it's
Yeah.
called the whatever collector's edition. Oh, that's what I was going to say earlier was the good thing about physical media is you got that, and you didn't
Yep.
really have it on videotape or on VHS, but when they all came to DVD. It's like, all right, here's the one I'm remembering is Butterfly Effect.
Yeah.
It's like I saw Butterfly Effect in the theater and I was like blown away too. It's like, wow, what an interesting concept wrapped into a good story.
Mhm.
And then so I get that on DVD and then I watch it, the theatrical version I wanted to see again. I was like, all right, cool. That was great. And I found out more things and really got immersed with it. And then it offers the
there's two sides to the disc.
Yeah, and it's like the other version that basically has all the deleted scenes into it, modified a little bit, and the ending. And I didn't like the ending at all. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, but do you remember this?
The theatrical one was better. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah,
I like it better that. Spoilers for anybody who's never seen Butterfly Effect. Cloud, I'm looking
spoilers,
at you.
if you're gonna watch this, it's very old, but it changes the complete movie.
So I like it better where he goes back and he just says something mean to her so that she's never in his life, instead of him going back to off himself in the womb.
Yeah, so that's what happens. So the theatrical version is he tells her that he never wants to see her, right, as a kid.
Yeah.
And then they live separate, happy lives.
Yeah.
And so that was like, okay, I can get it. And it's very like everybody lives and has their own lives and everything like that. But then the whatever it was called, unrated version. I think it was unrated version where he goes back in the womb and like self-deletes himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
and then you also find
like,
out that it was like the 5th time that had happened to his mom.
Yeah, because then it that was another deleted scene.
Yeah,
where it's like the mom was like, "Yeah, this has happened like 5 times."
Yeah,
and then you just you don't really notice it because it's in the middle of the movie.
Right.
But then at the end, when he goes back, for one, okay, so I have a lot of problems with this because he went back to other times when he was like looking at a notebook or whatever, and he can recall it. Because like, can you really recall like an event when you were 5? I can't really do that, in that kind of detail.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think it breaks the rules of the universe.
It does break the rules because like he started journaling, and just being myself now. That okay, when I saw that version of it, it was I think before I joined the army or around that time, and then I go through all the military service for all the past 17 years. And with trauma and stuff, and it's just like, wow, just I don't know. It's just a really weird thing to kind of break down. I like the idea of he started journaling and then he can go back to that certain time, but then going back to the womb, and then I don't know. So. That threw me off, and now I wish I wouldn't have saw that version.
Yeah.
I would not have thought about that again. I think I deleted that from my memory until we just talked about that.
Yeah, but that's one of those shows where at least they boil it down to 2, and they give you the option of which one to watch.
Yes, I like the option. I don't like being forced to go a certain way or gaslit to say that the other version never existed.
Yeah, so like Terminator 2, there's actually like 5 different versions, but there's only 3 that are good. But like it's just a sprinkling of different scenes at the end. And so there's one where at the end it shows it's like in the future, and John is grown up and he's like a politician, and they're in some park. And then why do I feel like Sarah Connor is on her name? That is her name, right?
Yeah, well, Sarah Connor is the character, and then Linda Hamilton.
Yeah, but the character.
Yeah, Sarah Connor.
For whatever reason, I thought that I was remembering her name.
She was older, right? She's a grandma.
Yeah. She was like a grandma, and it was just showing like her playing in a park, and I didn't like that scene. It wasn't needed, and it also when you get into that, now you get into like, well, okay, so Terminator 3 violates that. So if that's your like, which movie is canon, right?
Right. And actually, let's hold off on that because let's do a future episode where we can like break down all the Terminators because they are a freaking mess, in continuity.
Yeah. So when it comes to like, and I kind of touched on that with 28, weeks later. I wonder if they're going to stick to that ending, because if they do, then there's just implications for how things work in the universe. And
Right.
if they just pretend that 28 weeks later never happened, I'd be fine with that.
Maybe, but it'd be good to have that kind of what do they call it? Just like a dialogue or a throwaway line. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah,
I like those things that will fix it. You
yeah,
know, as opposed, well, kind of as opposed to and not with the X-Men timeline and everything.
right,
You
right.
get that, and it sucks. Like once you learn about business and contracts and directors and the
Hmm.
shitty things some directors and producers and actors and whoever do in their off time
Right.
extracurricular activities, and then it affects like the story, like when you have sequels and everything, and then prequels for that matter with
Hmm.
the X-Men. It's like they start off so well with a great idea, and then as the following up movies start happening, it's like, okay, now you're ruining the previous ones because
Hmm.
you're yeah, that's another one. We'll that's what we'll do. We'll go into, as I collect them,
Yeah.
we'll go into like the Terminator timeline,
Hmm.
X-Men timeline, that kind of stuff. That'd be a good future thing. See, we're already coming up with ideas
Yeah.
for future
And
content.
I love time travel stuff. Like,
Me too. Yeah,
so
it's
that's
interesting.
perfect.
I like the multiverse until people that
Yeah.
should have been playing with the multiverse started
Yeah.
messing with it.
I think there's a way to tell good multiverse stories, and they're just not doing it.
Probably, I would assume right now, not in live action. I've seen a lot of, animated
Yeah.
stuff where they have a lot more leeway to do some
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, live action, at least what they've been doing in the last 5 years, have not been good.
Yeah.
But anyway, top of the hour, let's get into some Memorial Day themed. I'm not going to say these movies are exactly. Well, first of all, let's start
Mine's
off with
not.
what Memorial Day is. So
Go ahead.
Memorial Day is to remember the fallen. So these are service members that passed away. There's different definitions, but basically they passed away in the line of duty or while serving, something like that. People that join the military, sign up and enlist or commission to give an oath saying that we're going to support and defend the Constitution, and make the ultimate sacrifice, if needed,
Mhm.
to that extent. And so that's what Memorial Day is for. I don't have the history in front of me right now. Maybe that
Mhm.
could be a future thing. But yeah, I just like the idea of, we got a lot of movies out there where it shows that. It shows,
Yeah.
what happened, and the ones that survived too. So, I'm
Yep.
out of the military now, out of the army, retired, but I have friends that I've lost over time while serving. And now that we're coming out of 20 years of the war on terror, it's
Mhm.
just it's a new thing now. And now it's more like we're talking about cyber.
Yep.
But anyway, so I got some physical media, a couple ones. So let's just kind of talk about each one if you're cool with that.
Yeah. I've got one. It's not America specific, but you might agree that it goes along with the theme.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was thinking about setting this up, is like, how much specific is it just to America, where
Yeah.
it does, and we make these federal holidays, at certain periods in our country, but a lot of them had to do like World War II, World War One, with other
Mhm.
countries that are involved, especially when you got
Yeah.
allies and stuff like that. So there is, I really noticed that on my last deployment where I was working with uh, uh, joint task force with other
Yeah.
countries. The idea that you like to, or that we think about, is like America's just that one Team America World Police,
Yeah.
where it's just us going out, in all
Well,
these countries. But
the
it's really not the point, or not
yeah.
accurate, because I mean, I've worked with countries that, Norway, New Zealand, Germany, Japan, like all these different countries working on these task force.
Right. So to me, there's the idea of giving your life in service to your country, but on top of that, when it comes to America, even more so, you are giving your life so that other people can maintain the freedoms that we have in America.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have America. I'll say America has a different standard typically for,
Yeah.
freedom and stuff like that. There's a lot of layers to it. Obviously, other
Yeah.
countries have different versions, and that's the whole point. We're not all
Right.
the same. Every country is going to have
Right.
different. I mean, even in America, every jurisdiction,
Yep.
city, town, state, is going to have different laws and policies, because different people live in different regions. And so, yeah, the same thing, across countries and across the world. But it's common things where it's like we want to be free to some kind of extent that we all
Yep.
agree on.
Or at least not under the boot of tyranny. That's a good start.
Yeah, I mean that's a big one
Yeah.
throughout all history.
Yeah.
World War I, II, Roman Republic, Empire, all these things.
Yeah.
Which
so you
is
want to
interesting because I'll wrap it up real quick, but yeah, which is interesting because then we get all these fantasy and sci-fi. We talk about Star Wars, and then talking about like Game of Thrones, where it's based on actual history, but then put on different spins in a way that we can understand it and realize. And that I could go on, but that's the whole escapism where it's like, we don't want to think about current day stuff. We want to think about a galaxy far, far away.
We totally, at least filmmakers, they've totally lost the art of subtext. It's now just way in your face, and like. Anyways, so you want to show
haters get on? They're like, "Oh, there's always been,
has, but it's been
references to history." And it's like, it's a skill to do it subtext or
read between the lines. Like whatever Star Wars had Vietnam references.
But that's because like the creators and George Lucas, and they had an understanding of history, and then we could go on for that. But anyways, let's get started. We'll go back and forth, whatever you have. But the first one on top, I got Men of Honor. So this is Robert De Niro, Cuba Gooding Jr. It's a Navy movie, Navy divers. I'm not going to go over the whole synopsis, but the idea, and we can talk about this a little bit in reference to this movie, but when you talk about diversity and stuff, and like this did it well. Like we've always had diversity stories in good quality medium. And like this is a great one to kind of reference when it comes to that, where it tells it, I think, fairly.
I mean, like I would say most people don't have a problem in the case that you're showing, like you don't have a problem with a black person in a certain role. It's when it's forced or when it's replacing a previously established character, right? And so like we used to be able to, at least when I was growing up, there was, I think the 90s was the peak of entertainment in a lot of ways, because everything was organically diverse. I think that's the key.
I like that way you phrase it, organically diverse. I'm going to use that more often, because it was a good point. Like it was to the point where you didn't even think about it.
Exactly.
It was just there. I can't remember why I'm thinking about Saved by the Bell now. I think somebody on X asked like, who was your favorite or who was your first crush? And I put Kelly Kapowski and stuff like that. But it was just, I mean, let's not go on that tangent, but Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Family Man, all that kind of stuff. Like
loved those shows.
There's ways to do it well and not be force fed, and Ironheart and stuff like that. Anyway, but no, so what was your experience with Men of Honor? First time seeing it, repeat viewings?
That one has been a really long time. I think I saw it when it came out. And what year was that? That would have been,
I want to say late 90s.
Yeah. So why don't you give me a refresher?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell my story then. So I was like in daycare, I want to say, around the time, and I was always into movies, and the father of the daycare provider or whatever, he was always in the movies too. Watch it. Maybe that's why I'm into it so much, because they had a complete collection, like VHS across all of like one wall in a room. Alphabetical order. It was like a movie store. It was just absolutely amazing. And so he was watching it, and he didn't give a crap if I was there or not. And I'm like, I probably at the time, like looking back, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have been watching this movie, but it was fine. Like I didn't understand like all the bad stuff, if there were bad stuff in it. I might have been like 11 at the time or something like that. And so I'm like, this is a really freaking good story. Like this is incredible and compelling. Another one I watched with him was like The Client. Do you remember that movie?
I don't.
It was like about a kid. I haven't watched in years, probably since then, but it was like a kid that witnessed a murder. And so he would like a 12-year-old or something like that. So it's a famous, like, I plead the fifth. He's like on the stage, like playing it. And they're like, you're using it the wrong way. That's not how this works. But it's a really good movie. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be watching this, but
Right.
no, I watched it the first time then, and I think this is one of the ones where like if I had it on DVD, I just bought this recently.
Yeah.
But if I had it previously, I would pop it in and watch it like on a weekend. And I
Nice.
think I might have seen it like on a TBS TNT, and I'm like, okay, I'm like we were talking about. I'm like, okay, this is not the same movie I was watching. I'm turning this off, and I'm gonna put in the
Right.
actual movie and watch that.
Right. So, in what ways does it follow the theme of Memorial Day?
Uh, Good question. I I definitely like. I can't remember when it take or what wars during that time it takes place. I know they were going on different. It's a lot of training. So just like a lot of
Yeah.
these movies, Top Gun and stuff like that, it's a lot of training, and
Mhm.
that's why I was trying to decide like which ones to put on, come and talk about because I had like behind enemy lines, or I guess not training. Anyway,
Must have
they
been
did
Gulf War.
this one.
Yeah, because that was early '90s. This movie came out in 2000. So, if it
I
was
mean,
anything, it must have
it
been.
was even a period piece for its time.
Yeah.
Uh, but either way, so once he got out of the training, because his injury happened. Well, for one, he hit a fight. He kept trying. I like the whole aspect. He kept trying to get into this. Well, he started off as a cook on a ship, or
Cuba Gooding Jr.
yeah,
A cook? No
right.
way.
I think he was a cook in Pearl Harbor as
Yeah, you
well.
was.
Which I did not get that one. I think I did not want to talk about Pearl Harbor for some
That was
reason.
one of my options.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about it if you want. That's fine. I
I'm
mean,
good.
yeah. Oh, it's more of a romantic
It is.
comedy
It is.
rom-com than
It is a lot of that. Yeah.
oh, there's so much. Is it Jerry Bruckheimer? It must have been one of his stinkers, in my opinion. But anyway, um, I like the idea that he came from whatever the South or middle of the country, and then he goes and he wants to be part of the military. So
Hmm.
that's the Memorial Day part that I think of. He's like, I'm willing to give him that ultimate sacrifice. I'm going to do this. And then he lands on a ship being a cook. He's like, this isn't what I signed up for or thought I was signing up for.
Right.
And then it's like hot on the ship. So um, some guys could go and swim and other guys could do it at a different time. And he's like, F this, I want to go and swim right now.
Hmm.
Gets in trouble. And then he finds out about, or he's like watching Robert De Niro be a master diver and anything. And he's like, I want to be that. Goes to the school, keeps getting rejected, eventually gets in because that's around the time that they were accepting more.
Yeah.
And then goes through all the struggles and just had the hardest time and kept at it. So I like that idea. But then the movie starts to shift when he's graduated from that. He's starting to do his own operations. And then Robert De Niro is getting into trouble because he's punching officers and stuff.
Hmm.
And then it's a whole he's on one of the operations, he loses the leg. I think it was recover. That's what it was. It was like recovering a submarine from the enemy, and then it goes wrong, loses his leg gets jacked up.
Yeah.
And then so he tells the doctor to take it off because he's learned about pilots that get their leg amputated and can still fly. And he's like, I want to still be a diver. That's my purpose.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That just came to mind. I'm like, I like this movie. It just hits home as far as that sacrifice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. Like I said, I don't. Even after you described it, I'm gonna have to watch it again. I think that's uh, the conclusion. 'Cause,
Yeah.
I remember, because I was young too. Would have been like 5 years younger than you when you saw it. So that no, that sounds interesting. It sounds like the kind of movie that I would like as an adult. Um, I think because like a lot of stuff you watch when you're a kid, you just kind of gloss over.
It
Seeing,
does. And
yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you're a father or not, but it does
Mm-mm.
hit a little closer to home for me being a father now
Mhm.
because there was a lot of that, do whatever it takes. Life is going to suck, but you got to keep at it.
Okay.
'Cause there is a father dynamic in this, like in multiple different versions. First, from his father going
Mhm.
through his dad's hard stuff before even that time,
Mhm.
and then and then Robert De Niro has like a father aspect too, and so, and in my opinion, that's what makes a lot of these good movies. Luke and Darth and and all
Oh
these
yeah.
different things is that father son aspect. So maybe that's another reason why I resonated with this one.
Yeah. Those types of things tend to resonate with me as well. And like, have you seen RRR?
No, I've heard about it.
Oh man. All right. We're
I'll
gonna
add
have
it
a
to the
watch
list.
party. We're gonna have a movie night.
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing.
um,
Yeah, we can just start adding a list.
no, that one I think it's an Indian movie, but it might be required watching for American citizenship. And I won't get into it.
Okay.
But it takes place at the time when India was still under British rule. So
Okay.
there's a little bit of overlap with the American colonies also being under British rule. So some themes in common with that,
Sure.
that you can relate to. But yeah, it's a great movie. But overall, just if you do watch it, make sure you go in blind. I will say that. But themes of like manlyhood and like just being a man,
Yeah.
and like what does that mean? Not just being macho. It means like, you know, there's there's a line in the movie where like he's talking to a dude's wife, and he's like being put on trial, and he's going to go save the dude. And so he tells the wife, he's like, you shouldn't have to go to him. I'm going to bring him to you, right? And it's just like, the wife shouldn't have to be putting herself through this situation, this strife. He's like, you know what? No, I'm going to go save this dude and bring him back. It's going to be good. Don't worry about it.
Sure.
Just like stepping up, being responsible, that kind of thing.
Nice.
Themes like that.
Okay. Well, do you got one to talk about?
Yes. Do you see my other camera in the?
Oh, let me check.
We're gonna
No,
test.
I don't.
We're gonna test this live. Let me check something.
Yeah, and
I'm
if you're
in.
listening, yeah, we're gonna work on some
Okay.
things as far as showing the different physical media and in some cool ways, but
Okay. Let
we'll
me
get there.
try. That is also not the right one. Okay, give me a second. Because I
Yeah, no
tried.
worries.
I tried logging in with on my phone, so I could use my phone camera. Show another one while I figure this out.
Yeah, I'll go into the next one. Which one? I'll go to the one that a lot of people have been talking about lately is the Patriot.
Ah,
This might be like the gold standard, you know. Yeah, very good Patriots, Mel Gibson,
yeah.
and I think this was early 2000s as well. And
Fatherhood themes.
yep, very fatherhood, very sacrifice, very, American Revolution,
Heath
and just like
Ledger.
having a country like torn, and it's
Yeah,
like they're well, for one, they were all British,
yeah,
it's just they were deciding what kind of British they wanted to be,
right.
you know. And it was wild. Yeah. This is another one I could pick it up. I could watch it right now and just be fully into it. I kind of been watching the past couple years around certain times like Memorial Day, July 4th. I think we'll talk about this again,
Hmm.
because it's definitely a July 4th one.
Yeah,
And then a Veterans Day one too is like usually when I watch something like this as
I
well.
will. I will tell you. I just had a conversation a couple hours ago about watching that on July 4th this year with True Pop,
Okay.
so we can fully Americanize him.
Let's do it.
Show him what it means to be American.
That is
Um,
an interesting story because like we're all about this, like American Revolution,
yeah,
time because this is how we've grown up and everything, and it's
mhm,
so new to us in a way as a
mhm,
country. But then you talk to like people from Great Britain or other, Britain, all these other things, and they're like, sure, whatever, you can have your little, victory. That is so small in like their history, the
mhm.
amount of history that they learn, as kids in high school and then even further with their families and stuff. They're like, that's just a blip on
Yeah.
our on our history. You can have it, And I never thought about like that until somebody said that.
Mhm. But yeah, like,
It's coming up right here. I don't know if you want to do that right now or
we'll finish yours and we'll test mine. I have a couple more things I want to say
yeah, talk about the Patriot for a little
on
bit more.
Patriot, because it's one of those movies that um it it almost perfectly this I'll tell you this would have been my pick if I had the physical copy of it.
Right.
But it's just one of those movies that exemplifies what it means. I mean, it's in the title, to be a patriot, right? And he, because the movie discusses, again, it's been a while since I need to, this is another one I need to rewatch. I haven't seen it in like a decade, but I remember this one a lot better. Because it discusses like, because it's Revolutionary War, but you're also seeing some of the conflict that comes up with the Civil War too. Of just,
Yep.
it's brother against brother, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Well, and that's a future. It also brings up the past. What is it called? The Indian Wars and stuff like that. So the previous, what it took to even like get to the spot that they are in the colonies right now. So
Yeah.
they did a lot of heinous stuff,
Right.
and that's what was Benjamin, the character's name, Mel Gibson, is known for. He has this whole reputation that his kids didn't even know about. Like later on, they hear stories of this, and they're like, "That's not the same person. That's not our dad,"
Right.
And then they see it firsthand, be like, "Wow."
And yeah, that's a whole other thing. It's like, you have life after war and you try to be a different person. You have all this training and all these situations you were put into as a soldier, and then you have to go back and live a normal life. And you try your best to have that stuff not come out.
Relatable.
And yeah, so hold on, I think I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, and then until the I'll turn this on for now and see what happens.
Oh yeah.
And then yeah, well, you don't know when your skills are going to be needed again, and then having to go back and be that certain person, and then it's like, and then is it a sliding scale of how much you get back into it? Because
Right.
I mean,
yeah, because he gets
things that we went through in the past 5 years have been pretty crazy, and it's like, and even now with my career or my career path and in speaking engagements and talking about resiliency and trauma and stuff like that, it's like, it's a lot to think about. It's like, okay, how do I explain this to whatever group that I'm speaking to, whether it be college kids or a VFW or a company headquarters? Because I can talk about, organizational leadership and mentorship and skill training and all these things, but it's like I did that in combat zones. Like it's really it's interesting. It's definitely my purpose right now is playing that balance. But then it's like, how much do you dive into, like, let yourself go into like that trauma part too, and then like staring into the abyss, like, okay, then I got to get out of there, and get back to like the thing at hand.
Right. So the other thing about this movie is that it, because then you have the call to action, right? And if I remember correctly, he initially refuses, wants to stay with his family, and then his son is the one who forces his hand, right?
Right.
And it's really interesting, because he knows the horrors of war, but his son doesn't. His son is gung ho to go and fight.
Yep, and that's when wisdom comes at hand. It's like, yeah, you have the bravery, the values, the purpose, the situation that we're in,
and
but it's like, kid, you don't know the wisdom.
Yeah, and there's people that he knew that died in those conflicts, and he, like it get, because you want to remember them, you want to honor them for what they did, but also you don't want that same experience for your kids, right? You don't want them to have to do it, on one hand, but then on the other hand, like, you would also want your kids to, there's a lot of like military families where they have like a, kind of a strict rule where, like, it's expected that you go into the military, you do your service, and so it's a really interesting dichotomy of two different mindsets of, you're going to war so your kids can have a better life, but also you want your kids to, in some cases, like, that you want your kids to maybe have that experience to just as a maturity. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like,
yeah, that's a good thought. Like, it's an unanswerable question, because I've bounced around that idea back and forth so many times.
Like, do you encourage it? Do you discourage it? Like, is it situational?
Yeah, it's gonna have to be a situational thing. It's
Yeah,
not something I have to worry about right now.
yeah,
But
yeah,
but yeah, it's gonna be that kind of. It's not gonna just be a one discussion
yeah.
type deal. But at the same time, yeah. But then do you hold them back from being the person that they
Right.
want to be and should be? And it's like, what if somebody was holding me back when the
Hmm.
time when I wanted to do that? Like
Right.
it's like that. Yeah, it's just like that grandfather theory in a way. It's gonna be a wild one. Yeah, now that I'm a little bit older, like I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are a little bit more nuanced when it comes to that kind of stuff. Knowing what I know now.
Yeah, it's a complex
Yeah,
complex topic for sure. And
but
like
going back to
I
like the
like how
act,
this movie covers it.
it does, and it's subtext, like you said,
Yeah.
and then there's moments where they're battling that back and forth in
Yeah.
a 2-hour movie, or even if it's I don't know if it's seems like every movie is 2 hours or more, 3 hours nowadays, but
Yeah.
movies before are just so self-contained. But I will say that yeah, let's just wrap up on Patriot, but uh I don't think we'd have Dark Knight Heath Ledger without this
Hmm.
movie. I think he learned a lot. I've heard of actors,
Yeah.
young actors, being either young in age or young in experience, working with seasoned veteran actors, and they learn so much. And if you're a good seasoned veteran actor, veteran meaning just in the movie industry,
Right.
you can show that new actor how to do things without instructing them. I've heard of that with Dean Cain talking about when he was on a movie with
Hmm.
I think it was Out of Time with Denzel Washington,
Hmm.
and Denzel was like, while they were filming, he was like giving him cues, and showing him things that either Denzel knew what
Hmm.
he was doing and showing him, or he didn't. But Dean Cain was able to like pick up on these things and
Hmm.
become a better actor on like a not very popular movie. The other comparison is when Tony Stark and Peter Parker,
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. in what was it, Civil War. Uh,
Okay.
he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go here, you go there," and that's another ad lib. Like, I hope that they never take that out because that was not supposed to be in there, and you're not supposed to talk
Yeah.
about. It's called blocking
Yeah.
actors of like where they are in position to
Right.
each other in the camera, and it's like he was instructing 19-year-old
Yeah.
what's his name,
Tom
Spider-Man or
Holland.
Tom Holland.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like I didn't,
Did
I
you know
think that's
that?
one of those things I didn't pick up till like the second time. I heard what he said the first time, but then
Yeah.
later I'm like, oh, that's shouldn't have been there.
Did you know that the scene in the when they're in the car and he reaches for the door and he thought it was going to be a hug? You know that was also one of those.
No, I didn't know that. That looked like it was completely fluid.
No, that was
It
that
was
was
so in
ad lib.
character
It was
for
complete
both
ad
of them.
lib. Yeah, and I think Tom Holland has a story that he tells about it. He's
Yeah.
like, "I'm not hugging you. I'm opening your door." Anyways,
Awesome.
so back to Heath Ledger. I think that was his first serious dramatic role because I was looking. He was in like Ten
Yeah,
Things I
it
Hate
was
About
around
You,
the same time as uh the Night movie,
Knight's Tale. Yeah,
Knight's Tale, which
yeah.
I think I saw once and didn't like it. Maybe I should go back and watch it again, but
That one I think holds up over time.
I'll
It's a
I'll check
little
it.
weird because it has it's kind of like a modern day rom-com but in medieval Europe, and
Yep.
it has its ups.
Yeah,
I
I
think
saw
it's
it
good for what it
once,
is.
and yeah, I was a teenager, so I really wasn't feeling the same with Pearl Harbor.
Well,
Uh,
like the best example of it, they at the beginning of the movie they're playing "We Will Rock You" in the stands of the stadium.
right.
Um, and then like the guitar solo was actually being played on the trumpet, and I was like, just the way that it's edited together, I could believe that that dude is playing that guitar solo on a trumpet. It seemed
Yeah, I'll give
realistic.
it some I'll give it a second watch, but
It's a little hokey, but I think for what it is, it's pretty good. But yeah, I think that was his first real serious role in The Patriot, and then I'm just looking through his IMDb credits, tragically short.
yeah, very short. So another one around that time was the
Oh, he did Brokeback before The Dark Knight for some reason. Well, I
it was
guess it
around
makes
the same
sense.
time.
I guess it makes
It
sense because
probably depends on the release and everything, but yeah, it was
it's like
probably.
3 years earlier.
Oh, really? Hmm.
Brokeback came out in
Yeah, I just
2005.
remember that one, and then the one with Matt Damon, the Grimm fairy
Brothers Grimm.
tale.
Yeah, just the Brothers Grimm.
Brothers Grimm, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
So yeah, I think he was being typecast as kind of like like 10 Things I Hate About You. He was like the teenage bad boy / heartthrob
before Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Or I call that his breakout role.
Yeah. Because the other ones on his list, I have no idea what these are. I think they're just a bunch of TV stuff. But yeah. Anyways, so back to the Patriot. When my experience with that was when that came out, I saw that in theaters. It says it came out in 2000. I remember leaving the theater just thinking, man, just let a British person come up to me. I will just end them. I will single-handedly drive the next revolution.
Let's talk about the villain. Was it not Oscar Isaac?
Jason Isaacs?
Jason Isaacs.
Yeah. Lucius.
Just top tier.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, just incredible villain. Like that makes a good story. You need that hero and villain, or protagonist and antagonist. Because even like General Cornwallis, it's like, yeah, he's a top general around that time. I've heard the stories and I've seen things, and it's like he was just fine. But then you get this like dog on a leash, rabid dog of Jason Isaacs that, like, man, he just performed so well in that role.
Okay.
I hate it. Yeah. Well, if you're listening, check out Patriot. At any time of the year, especially any of these holidays.
If you want to watch it with us around July 4th, I think we're going to be watching that on the Fellowship Discord.
Yeah, I'd be down.
So, okay. So I think I have my camera working.
Okay. I'll turn it on. See what we got.
Like I said, Patriot was my first pick, but I had to go off of what I had available. And the big reveal, Braveheart.
Oh, there you go. I don't think I have that somewhere, but not with me.
This is the double VHS.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. You can see the bottom of it. Yeah. So, I was limited by stuff that I had, but yeah, this to me, like I said, it's not America, but it does embody the theme of giving your life for your country, specifically for fighting against tyranny, trying to, give your fellow people the freedom, right? Fighting for the freedom.
Yeah.
And so Braveheart, I think, because it's just the first thing I think of when I think of the general theme of it. The end of the movie, you have, he gets captured, he's being tortured. They're telling him, just say mercy and we'll let you go. But no, he yells freedom, right? Ends up getting beheaded. And that ends up being the catalyst, because they take his body parts, they send them all around Britain. And
I forgot about that.
Yeah. And that ends up being the catalyst, because there's that other character that some of the noblemen, Scottish people, his tumor dad was the one who ended up betraying Mel Gibson's character, William Wallace.
Yep.
But then it's his son who, in the moment when he is, he's going to be this king, but I guess it's still going to be under the foot of England. He like turns to the rest of the army behind him, and he's like, you bled for William Wallace. I forget if he asks or if he tells them. He's like, will you bleed for me? And then they go into battle, and freaking Gleason throws the sword.
Yep.
Good scene.
I remember that. I gotta watch that one again.
Yeah. And so in one, they're honoring him, they're honoring his sacrifice by continuing his fight. So in that case, it's not just that, you're not just remembering somebody for what they sacrificed, but you're also using that as inspiration to take the next step and continue the fight and get the end result of I forget historically how everything went, but the end of the movie it implies that, like, yeah, they won their independence and got their freedom. So
Yeah,
Um,
great movie. It's another one I watched a ton back then, and just haven't
oh yeah,
seen a lot in the last decade.
yep. Um,
Another one where I miss like having all the extras like in the back, because like
yeah.
nowadays it would all be CGI, right?
The
Um,
the freaking battles were gruesome.
yeah,
Um, Freaking legs getting chomped off. People getting smashed in the head, and you see like their helmet, like the blood splatter out the backside of the helmet. It's
yeah. Going
crazy
back to the
gory.
Patriot real quick. Remember the cannonball?
Oh yes, who can forget
Yeah,
that? Oh my god.
I know. That's usually a topic that people talk about. But yeah, that's what's great about those old war movies. I say old, but
Yeah,
yeah, in the last 20 years or more,
right.
is like all the extras, the costumes, the design, the imagine like going out in the middle of a field and having all these people basically cosplaying,
Hmm.
or reenacting, but filming it, and making it a good story.
Hmm.
And it's just like I don't think we'll ever get that again. It'll all be CGI, you know,
It's
for whatever reason. Maybe, they have extras and now people have, phones and streaming and they can just record and share and stuff like that. But at the same, it's just a lost art of,
yeah,
and that's another reason, like AI is taking over jobs. It's
yeah,
like, yeah, because, you, I don't know, you can't do that nowadays. It's a shame. It's a lost art.
yeah. Well, even going back to what I said when I was talking about 28 Days Later, that's one of those movies that used a low budget and extras to great effect. And like, I don't maybe because you were a little older than me when that movie came out. I think it was early 2000s. Was
Braveheart.
there? No. 28 Days Later. Just like
Oh,
because talking about extras. Do you remember a zombie? Yeah, so 2002 this came out. Do you remember a zombie movie before that that had fast moving zombies like they did in that one?
I don't think so. World War Z was way later on,
Yeah,
and that was a fast one.
because
Because what
because I
other zombies movies are before that, like Dawn of the Dead and
yeah I think they were just there was this stereotype of them just being slow lumbering things,
right,
and
yeah, like Evil Dead and stuff like that.
yeah, and so what I was just trying to verify if my memory was correct on that. Like, 28 Days Later, I think, made the fast moving zombie kind of a thing, and then you saw that more. Like even I Am Legend, they weren't really technically
Yeah,
zombies, but whatever.
uh,
Like um,
that could have been such a better movie.
yeah, I still need to read the book.
I know. I have to read. I've heard so many good things about the book,
Yeah,
and I love the concept of the movie, and it
yeah,
just my
that's another one
headcanon
with
and how it should go just doesn't pan
there you,
out with what's on the film,
there you go. You have another one with the director's cut with a totally different ending.
good or bad.
Um,
Oh wait, I think I did see it. Wait, does he survive?
he
Is
doesn't
that
blow
the deal?
himself up.
Doesn't?
No, I think he
Okay.
just he just ends up getting away with them, and he gets to the military place wherever.
Yeah, just knowing what I know now about like the book and everything, it's just like, yeah,
Yep.
whatever. um, let's go into more. Do you want to go into more realistic true story ones, or I got an off the wall kind of one?
Let's go off the wall.
Okay, when I say off the wall, it's The Rock. So it's very, you
Nice.
know, not late '90s. Just Jerry Bruckheimer, is it Dustin Don Simpson,
Mhm.
and then you get your Nicolas Cage for the comic release
Yeah.
relief. Ed Harris just crushes it. So and then, well, for one, you get Sean Connery, which is basically like a fan theory that it's 007 at the end of his story, you know,
Mhm.
which is cool. And Sean Connery is just, it might be his last best movie, at least in my opinion. I can't remember if there was another one after '96 with Sean Connery. He had a couple here or there,
Yeah.
but I think this was his last
96.
good like action movie. But I bring this up because the movie starts out. Well, the whole premise of it is Ed Harris, General, Brigadier General Francis S. Hummel,
Mhm.
is in all these operations. He's all these covert things throughout history. China, what they say, Laos, northern China, all these things, and he's like, and he lost men, and then they covered it up, or CNN displayed it in a different way than what actually happened, or he was sent to do a certain mission for a reason, and they used it for another reason, and so that sacrifice, and he has to live with that for decades, and then what changes is when. And he kept fighting back. So the more I watch this movie, I just pick up new things, especially at the beginning. And so he's given this like speech to his
Mhm.
wife that passed away. I think that she like recently passed away, because
Mhm.
he says he's like, okay, let me start over. It's playing these roles where he's talking to his men on the radio saying, "I'll get you out of behind enemy lines," and then he's calling to his higher command. He's like, "I need to get these guys out," and they're like, you don't have permission to go in," and so they pass away. He feels crappy about it. There's even like voice where he's talking to like Congress and stuff, and he says like, "This is unacceptable," all these things, and nothing works. And
Mhm.
so when he's talking to his dead wife at the cemetery now, he's like, I've tried everything else. I tried everything I could, and they don't have my attention, and I couldn't do this when you were here. So this is what I need to do. And we're the audience are like, what is happening right now? What is about to happen? And so he leaves flowers, and I think it's at like Arlington Cemetery or something like that. It's definitely a military installation. And so
Right.
he leaves flowers, and then he leaves his what is it, Army Medal of Honor,
Mhm.
Congressional Medal of Honor. So he leaves that, which is the top medal you can get.
Right.
Not anybody can just get that. Most people get it after they pass away, unless you're Forrest Gump, you get it a couple times or whatever the deal is. Then so he leaves that on the grave, and that's just like
Right.
unheard of at the time for me to even comprehend to do. But I get that he had to like leave it there in order to be a different person, and then
Mhm.
that's when the actions start to happen. They take the chemical weapons, and then he's calling into DC, and he does it in such a formal manner. And I think this movie just got better during it was good before I went in the army. It was better when I was in the army, and then now that I'm a veteran, I'm like, I have so much respect for just the
Did
way they played out the movie. And it's like you don't know who's the good or bad guy. It kind of changes throughout the course of it.
right.
But and yeah, there is no good or bad ones. Like you said, you got Nicolas Cage, FBI agent, you got
Mhm.
the Womack and stuff that hid this stuff, it hid the people, didn't give him well, for one, he's from a different country, and he's supposed to be extradited. Instead, he gets thrown into prison without the key. Because, anyways, I could go on for it. We should do a breakdown of this one, but yeah, the whole thing is like he tried, and then he does all this,
Mhm.
and then even when he's going through it, he doesn't want to hurt people. He just wants to get the respect for his men, and then the money, the compensation for the families and all this stuff. But then he has to get with bad groups of people that don't see it his way. But yeah, that's my little The Rock rant right there.
Did you see that one in theaters when it came out?
No, I think I was too young for the in theaters. I watched it on VHS,
Gotcha.
and it was awesome. Yeah, I think I was too young to
Well,
either to
here's
appreciate it when theaters. But
I
yeah,
guess here's a good question. Did that or any other movie that you talked about or didn't talk about, did that affect your decision to join the military at all?
yeah, absolutely. I would say, yeah, absolutely. Black Hawk Down. I saw that pretty much a
Mm.
year, I want to say, before I joined the military,
Mhm.
and I went into it, and I got another movie we can talk about.
Yeah.
I don't have it on physical. I have it somewhere in physical media, but I couldn't locate it right now. I think it might have been on a burned disc somewhere without the case. But yeah, Black Hawk Down, where it's just like I thought it was just going to be a normal war movie that you're going into, similar to like, I don't know. I think before that was like a Saving Private Ryan and stuff, uh, or around that time. But I watched that Black Hawk Down, and at the time it only happened like a couple years later, where the operation happened
Mhm.
during the Clinton administration, in which I didn't pay attention to politics in that kind of way at the time. Uh, but then they make it into a book where a lot of people read that. I didn't read it at the time. I read it later. And then they make it into a movie where and the movie's just like everything that could go wrong did go wrong, and there were a lot of good actors in it, like a lot of people that were either famous then or not famous and then became famous later. So you're
Talking Black Hawk Down.
yeah. So Eric Bana.
Mm-hmm.
Can you name a few actors?
Is Josh
Orlando
Hartnett in that
Bloom
one?
is the young one that dies out of the helicopter.
Really?
Orlando Bloom that goes on to do Pirates and all the other things.
Is Josh Hartnett in that? I can't remember.
Yep, Josh Hartnett
Yeah.
is the Ranger that's leading the Ranger thing, and then you get the different factions of Delta Rangers, you know, all things, and then they have different skills and everything, and then you get I can't remember the general's name or the actor's name. Tom Sizemore as well. So he's like the crusty old non-commissioned officer. I can't remember, first sergeant, master sergeant, something like that.
Right.
And they're all doing their job. So yeah, Black Hawk Down just gets better every time. But the point is, like, I walked out of that movie like, and it said it was like, you know, based on true events, and they reference Clinton and actions and stuff like that. And then it just ends. Like, it's not a happy ending at all. There's no catharsis. There's no closure. It just ends, and it's like there's no happy ending. And so I walk out of that and I'm like, wow, that was a Friday night that I wasn't expecting. And then, you know, going off to go to a party afterwards, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm in the mood for this right now. But
had you already made the decision to join, or was this even before that?
What's that?
Had you already made the decision to join?
No, I hadn't made the decision, but it gave me a perspective of like, there's a lot more going on in the world than what's in my high school mind right now.
Right.
And then 9/11, I can't remember the way the timeline happened with 9/11 and stuff, but that was my decision to join, combined with other things.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good question though. Sorry, you talk about The Rock.
Well, I mean, I was like, because you brought up that one, and that just, you know, it got me to thinking, because movies in general can be inspirational, and you know, because I think, like, not to like over glorify it or anything, but like a lot of times movies can give you like an aspiration of, you know, something to shoot for yourself personally, and then a lot of times it can just be like you know, a story of what not to do, right? But like, I don't know, because you were talking about The Rock, and I just got to thinking, like, I wonder if this movie or any of the other movies that we've discussed had made an impact on your life in enough of a way to you know, influence you joining the military. So
yeah, I mean, in some kind of sense, similar to before, people had, I mean, even like Captain America, they're watching movies in there around the time that movies were just coming out. Like, that was their thing, their new technology at the time, similar to ours, having cell phones and social media and streaming and stuff like that. But then even before that, they had books, you know. It's wild. I know, obviously these movies are not real per se, but it's real people wrote these, directed them, actors jumped into these roles, did research on them. And then with all these military ones, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a certain like consulting that either the government, the military has to like sign off on, just so they're not like disparaging in some kind of way. And then I don't know how it works exactly, but then they trade off. They're able to use equipment and teams and bases and stuff like that.
Like, I heard about that with Top Gun. I don't remember if it was the first one or Maverick, but like being able to use the jets, you know, they had a close partnership with
yeah, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
I get that concept. But
I can't remember if it was the Air Force or the Navy.
Top Gun's Navy.
Yeah, because that's what I'm confused on, because
Navy has planes and
yeah, because they're on the aircraft carrier on the ocean. So
well, yeah.
That anyways, yeah. So I know that they had worked with the armed forces on that, and
they have consultant stuff. Knowing that knowing what I know now about that, I'm like, man, I should have been a military film contractor guy. You know, it's
Still
like,
could.
yeah, I know. Well, yeah, in civilian world, but
Yeah.
be that, you know, like a roadie in Iron Man,
Right.
the liaison.
Oh, right. Yeah, the civil consultant.
Yeah, it's like somebody has that position somewhere, and it's got to
Yeah.
be Malco.
Okay, so I was the other one that I wanted to talk about, which you briefly talked about, was Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
I just don't have that physical. Um, but that one, um, it just I the reason I want to bring that up is because I think because when you're just talking about remembering those that have fallen, you have Forrest Gump's best friend Bubba that
Bubba.
dies, and then what does he do afterwards? He continues his dream in his memory, starts Bubba Gump Shrimp, right?
Yep, his legacy, his
Yeah,
dreams,
exactly.
what they talked about doing.
And that's really powerful to me. Just that sentiment of not only just remembering somebody, but carrying on their legacy. And then what does he do? He gives all the money to his family. So good.
Yeah. I like that. It's so fair, and it's
well,
like,
not all the money, but it's like, oh, and here's Bubba's cut.
yeah,
It's
right.
amazing. But yeah, that's I think that kind of sentiment is what it's all about.
Yep, and it's so difficult to describe to somebody who
Mhm.
either is not in it, doesn't understand it, or respect it. Because yeah, I was doing these Memorial Day speeches over the weekend and events and talks and stuff like that. And then I go to and talk to my neighbor after it's all done, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's so great that you're doing this." And
Mhm.
it's a shame other people are disparaging it and protesting. And I'm like, it didn't even register to me. I don't know, what he's watching or something like that. I don't know if it was like local
Yeah.
news or whatever, or national or whatever. It's just like he was like, yeah, it's ridiculous they're doing this, and I'm like, they can do whatever they want. Like, I know what I care
Mhm.
about, and yeah, it goes back to, it's a shame people do these things for the support of others, and then others will have their own free will to do, harm, I guess, do non-selfless acts and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
you see that in Forrest Gump too, in different
Mhm.
areas.
Oh yeah. Do you have any other ones that you want to show?
Yeah, I just want to stop at the top of the hour.
Okay. Yeah, we good.
So yeah, we can bounce around in these, but let's go to make sure we get to the one of the goats, or one of the top ones, is there. You're Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah.
So big one when it comes to who was it? Spielberg, right? Is
Yeah.
it just Spielberg? Oh, and Tom Hanks as well. So yeah,
Mhm.
Tom Hanks has been known for doing the band, did Band of Brothers after Saving Private Ryan
Mhm.
and the Pacific and things like that. So yeah,
And
I can respect the.
Matt Damon has gone on to be saved by the American tax dollar several more times as well.
Yeah, I heard about that. Like, something they spent some ridiculous amount of money saving Matt Damon from war, from Mars. Where
Yeah.
else? Inception? Or not? I was mixed up.
In
Interstellar.
Interstellar. Yeah.
Interstellar in another random planet.
Yeah.
I know, and maybe that's changing my opinion on Matt Damon. But God, yeah, I like that kind of lore stuff when
Yeah.
we talk about that. Have you heard about that one where Captain America, when he's frozen, he should be entitled to like X amount of money in back pay because
Oh, he was
some
still
people
up.
consider it like a prisoner of war, or
He was
missing in action type deal, where
yeah.
when you come back out of that, you get compensated for your time still serving.
I
So
mean
it's
he
one of those internet things where people fight about whether Captain America Steve Rogers should be owed
he
whatever
was
sum of
still
money with inflation.
I guess I wonder if there's a precedent for that, like if somebody was thought to have been killed in action, but then it turns out they were prisoner of war, did they get compensated?
I think there are. I don't know the exact things, but it
Hmm.
happens a lot.
Something I never even thought of.
I
So
know, right? Okay, so this is another one with Tom Sizemore, and this is another
Mhm.
one that has a lot of good actors, both in their prime and then young on. Do you remember Vin Diesel is in this movie?
No.
Yeah, I would watch it again. He's one.
Oh,
I can't remember if he dies early on, but he's definitely part of
I
their
just
crew.
okay. I didn't put two and two together that it was Vin Diesel, but now that you say that, I'm like, I'm associating him with the character that I know that looked like him, and so oh my gosh, that's
I know it's weird. It's weird to think of Vin Diesel as not Fast and Furious guy.
right.
But
That's cool.
then I was saying, it's Tom Sizemore as well. So he was both in Black Hawk Down and this one around that same kind of time period, which is I like it. I like it when good actors play. You know, some people will say typecast, but it's like no, if you got a good role or perception or whatever you want to call
Mhm.
it, like strike while the iron's hot. Like like
Yeah,
use that actor for especially when you're in different time. So what Tom Sizemore, that was what, the 90s, and then this
yeah.
is 40s and stuff. But
Well,
wow, and then just look at
like,
like just the amount of that goes into like explaining like what's going on, because it's a long movie.
yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but on VHS it's a double tape as well.
I don't have this one. I know Pearl Harbor is.
I believe it is, because it is a long movie, and I actually watched this in high school. So I think
Really?
it was U.S. history, either U.S. history or world history. We actually went to the auditorium and watched it, and they had to like prep us. They're like, "All right, this movie, there's going to be a lot to it, but it's real, it's
Yeah.
war. Just be prepared." And that opening scene is the Normandy beach, and it's like that's a lot to take in, especially as a high schooler. And pre 9/11, around the same time that I watched this in high school. It was
Yeah.
maybe even before. And if that was, that's wild to think about. But yeah, just another one about, sacrifice. Matt Damon is the old man in the cemetery
Yeah.
remembering.
I
And
use that
you
GIF
don't
all the time
yep,
whenever.
you don't really find that out until, later on, and it makes sense.
Yeah, that scene where it shows him aging rapidly in like less than a second.
Yep.
I use that GIF all the time whenever I feel old.
Yeah, I've seen that one quite a few times now.
Um,
But and they have the discussion about like, because like everyone's wondering, because Tom Hanks is awesome captain that's
yeah.
just crushing it in all these roles that he's in during that battle time, and they're like, who was he? Was he this fighter? Was he all this? And then later you figure out that he was like a teacher, you
Mhm.
know, and so he understands history before World War II and
Right.
all this, and then he still got caught, whatever it was, went on his own or drafted or what have you, and he's doing the best he can
Yeah.
with what he has. And they're when they're trying to take down that bunker, when they're trying to figure out, the men are like, we could just go right beside it. We could just not even think that it exists. And he's like, this is our mission. Or the guys say like, our mission is to save Private Ryan, which
Yeah.
is not something they want to do either, but it's
Yeah.
their orders. And then he's like, our mission is to win the war. And like
Mhm.
that gave me good, even right now it's giving me goose. Can we do the goosebumps? I don't know. But he's like, our mission is to win the war. And they got
Right.
it. If they don't take out that bunker, machine gun post, whatever,
Right.
then it's gonna mess up anyway. So Tom Hanks, I hate using his name. I'd rather use a character's name,
Right.
knowing what I know about him now.
Yeah.
But it's like he had the foresight to think that if you can do the right thing, you should do the right thing. And
Right.
it does cost them at least one life. And I think it was the medic that he's like, that gets fucked up. And then he's like, all right, give me morphine. And they're like, I guess you're done then. You're not going to be able to, you're pretty much done at that point if you're getting morphine. And yeah, I could talk. Yeah, we should do a different solo stream about this one movie. But
Just deep dive on that one.
yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that movie. That was the great movie. The scene with the guy getting stabbed is haunting. Like the slow, and he's just watching the knife go into his chest.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I forgot about that
Um,
part. Yeah, a good movie has multiple moments like that.
and it's the moment that like gives you a glimpse into the humanity of and like um but like my so they have multiple I don't know, multiple discussions I haven't seen in a while, but like they discuss, how many men's lives are worth sacrificing for one man, and getting into that conversation. It's always something that you think about in movies, especially poorly written ones, where like they, the third act, they go in to save the guy, the or whatever, the girl who saves or what's the phrase they use? The girl, uh,
Which one?
I don't know. There's some phrase that people use. It's like the girl with the power to do anything or something like that. Um, but it's like they go save the most important character in the world, right? We have to go save this person because we can't do it
Oh,
without this person. And then they go in there and like they all die, and but the one person gets saved, and in poorly written movies it really falls flat. But like in Saving Private Ryan, I think it's really well done. They give justification. Tom Hanks' character is great in in delivering some of those lines, right?
yeah, very well done. Where it's like we have orders to do it. It's like, yeah, you could just think that it's orders written on a paper because you don't understand the whole battlefield strategy.
Mhm.
The whole thing. You're just understanding your position, like compartmentalization type
Yep.
deal. But then it's like, yeah, you don't understand that his other whatever 3 brothers,
Yeah.
died too, and then you got
And
a mom
it's
back home.
these other people are putting their lives on the line just so that mom can have one son that didn't die in the war, right?
Right.
And it just comes down to somebody gave the order because they had that moment of I guess it would be pity for the mom, right? Just trying to give her that uh, the one son back. You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting.
It is wild, yeah, and that's why I love cinema and certain movies where it's just like it can really make you think in different kind of ways,
Yeah.
either throughout the movie, what you thought beforehand, afterwards, seeing it multiple times, and
Hmm.
yeah, and that's why we go back to physical media, being able to watch the same version, multiple
Exactly.
times, not worried about, like we talked about, different versions and confusing our mind and Mandela effect.
Way to bring it back.
Yeah,
Imagine if
bring it back, that's what I
im-
do, I guess, is
ima-
back.
imagine if there was a version of Saving Private Ryan where they're just like, this isn't worth it. We're leaving. The movie
Oh,
ends.
I would not like it. I would not like the whole both versions or, I would like both versions less or the main yeah, they
Just,
shouldn't be done.
do you think they
Alright.
would? I'm not going to get
So,
into.
let's go
Go ahead.
into Lone Survivor. So, this is another one post 9/11, based on a true story. These are real people that are still alive.
I've
Marcus
not
Luttrell.
heard of
Uh,
this one.
you haven't heard of this one?
Lone Survivor.
Yeah,
No.
write it down and watch this
Mark
one.
Wahlberg.
Yep, Mark Wahlberg, Eric Bana, where Eric Bana was like the Delta guy, like the fly by the seat Delta guy, in Black Hawk Down, and now he's like the commander in this one. Not the same guy, character obviously, but
Right.
you can see the development or the actor Eric Bana being in different roles, which was
Hmm.
freaking awesome. Like it was so cool to see that knowing Black Hawk Down characters. And then Mark Wahlberg just freaking gets better and better with each role that he had in the past,
Right.
30 years. Uh, so yeah, this was I'm kind of blanking on this because I haven't seen it in a couple years now. But yeah, it was Afghan, and I was in Iraq mostly. I didn't, so I seen a lot more Iraq movies, but this was Al Qaeda, Afghanistan. So this is a more like when do you work with villagers and local populations and stuff like that? You don't
Yeah.
know if they're ones that just want to be left alone and um, or if they're the wrong people. And
Yeah.
this has like a good mix of both, where it's like, who do you trust? And then when you get in a tough spot, it's like you need to rely on people, and hopefully you show courtesy. Going back to the Patriot, it's like that. Remember, Jason Isaacs? He's like, all right, well, destroy all the enemies of the crown. And it's like
Mhm.
they're injured, they're prisoner, taken prisoner of war. That's how it all got started. So, and which is a good point. So you have that in the Patriot, and then you have it in this, post 9/11 time where you know uh, uh, times are very stressful,
Yeah.
not knowing who's the enemy and who's not. Patriot was a little bit more easy with like, lines
They
and
would
colors.
wear uniforms.
Yeah, uniforms and
You
getting
know
all on
who's
the
who.
same line and going at it. And then, well, they use guerrilla warfare, and that's what
Yeah.
Mel Gibson's character Benjamin did use guerrilla warfare, and that's what you do with a big opposing force.
What
But yeah, watch that
what
one for sure. I'm gonna rewatch this one too.
what was the movie? I don't even know if it was a movie or a show, but um, I think it was taking place in Desert Storm or in um,
Three
Iraq.
Kings.
Well, the scene that I'm thinking about was there was just a kid that walks up to a soldier, and the kid ends up being strapped to the bomb and blowing up. Do you remember this scene at all from anything?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I can't pinpoint right now. Well, in Three Kings, you remember that one? This was early Desert Storm. Mark Wahlberg, George Clooney.
Yeah, I remember the movie, but
Okay, I can't
probably
remember
not
if it
the
was
scene
that
you're
one or
talking
not,
about.
but there was yeah, there was that's the thing. You get that dilemma too of civilians, and
Yeah.
it's wild. Ben Foster, Emil Hirsch, Eric Bana. There was another guy, Taylor Kitsch. You remember
hmm
him?
Isn't
Yeah.
he John
Carter?
Carter? Yeah.
Yep, John Carter. He was in the Terminal List with Chris Pratt. He's been in a
He was
he's like
Gambit.
the smaller guy in a lot of good war movies too.
He played Gambit in the
Yep, Gambit.
one thing.
Battle.
Battlefield Earth.
No, the board game which made a horrible movie. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, Battleship.
Battleship. Yeah,
Yeah.
Battleship. With Rihanna, was it Rihanna in there? I don't know. I watched it once and tried to erase that from my memory.
I decided not to watch that. I thought
You don't need to.
decided it'd be too corny.
It's no. Yeah. Maybe I should rate like bad. We should rank bad military movies like Pearl Harbor and Battleship. That'd be a little bit wild. Okay, going into a little bit more, getting into the realistic. We went from The Rock to all these. So Zero Dark 30. You seen this one? Remember this?
No, I haven't seen that one.
I would say watch this one because this was the takeout of Osama bin Laden. So this was Chris Pratt.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wait, no. Hold on. This came out recently, right?
Well, like 2010-ish.
2010. Hold on. Let me look this up.
Yeah, look it up. I mean, it was obviously after Osama bin Laden and
2012. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
it was like the CIA. It's basically a CIA movie. Is kind of
Right.
the deal. It's where they get the intel, and they're trying to figure out what to do and take him out of the compound. So it was more about like the CIA's perspective on it. But it's a breakout role for Chris Pratt. I can't remember if this. I think this was like right after Parks and Rec, and then before Guardians of the Galaxy. And so it's like Chris
yeah,
Pratt. It's like, what is
Guardians
Chris
was
Pratt doing?
2014. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Chris Pratt was like freaking ripped. Maybe you wouldn't have, his version of Peter Quill
Right.
without this version, which is kind of cool to think about. It
Yeah, I
doesn't have a,
thought you were talking about something else that came out more recently with him in it when you mentioned that. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I can't remember. Maybe there's something. Oh, there was a different movie. I would suggest watching that one too. But what am I thinking of? Tomorrow War, something like that. It was more sci-fi, but
That one was
still good.
sci-fi. Yeah.
I like that one as far as just a one-off thing.
What
But no,
was, there was something, I think it came out on Amazon Prime recently, and it was just a I thought it was just like a military. Gosh, I'm gonna have to look this up.
yeah,
And I thought he was in it. Yeah, keep talking about that one.
yeah, no, it was good. So this is SEAL Team 6.
Right.
I can't remember how much they changed from the real version. I found out more. I think I did like a different in military leadership skills. We always we analyze different battles, and this one was, I mean, very important, obviously, and
Yeah.
and so we break down this, and it's weird just because they had body cams. So like,
Right.
I can't remember if they actually had those kind of body cams in obviously they had them in The Rock, which is a fake movie, and So, but in this one, they actually had real body cams that were showing
Right.
on the spot reaction. I don't know if you remember the Situation Room with Obama, Clinton, Biden, all of them. So there's like a photo of them
Yeah.
as they're watching this in real time. And I don't know how many times that happened previous to this operation, but I remember that being like a game changer as far as the decision makers basically being with the soldiers as it's happening, or in this case, SEAL Team 6 and stuff.
Yeah.
But that I remember that being a game changer. Is like, wow, now these the president is basically kind of
Well,
in the operation.
in a way, I like that because it forces them to be less detached about things like that instead of
Hopefully,
just yeah.
to get their kicks off from it.
Yeah, that and that's the other side of it is like the voyeurism, if you want to call it that, of like um just that being something that you would enjoy watching, which and like yeah, because you get that with uh the body cams that the police wear,
Yep.
where people like um I don't know, they just the videos of those that people end up like watching those for entertainment, and I think that's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. That's a weird concept. Going back to like how we talked about earlier in the show, is just everything nowadays is for one, it's recorded. For
Yeah,
two, it's can be streamed instantly.
right.
You know, and it's just like all the things that let's not go into like the news, but like all the previous incidents that happen. It's just like, should we even be watching this? Like, should our minds and at what age, you
Right,
know, if you have to be 18, to join the military in order to see all this, back in the day, Patriot people are joining at
right.
12 and 15 and stuff like that. Um, but we're able to watch this stuff online and in real time, and
Yeah,
then like you said, people can put spins on it
yeah,
if it fits their narrative. I don't know. Yeah, that's a thing to think about. I would rewatch. Me personally, I'll rewatch this. I would suggest you watch it. Um,
yeah,
it's not one I just go to like these other ones can be, but it'd be worth to look at just as far as things have changed over the last 15 years now.
yeah, yeah. I'll
It's
put that on my
wild.
list. By the way, I found the one I was thinking of. It's called The Terminal List.
Yeah, is that the
It
show?
was.
That's a show.
Is it a show? Okay, it's a new
Yep.
series. Yeah, so that's what
Good.
I was
That's
thinking
good.
of.
Very
Chris
good show. I
Pratt.
think season 2 is coming out soon.
Yeah, so Chris Pratt, former Navy SEAL. That's where I was getting uh, the lines crossed
Yep,
because
that's a good one. Who directs that or produces it?
creator says Jack Carr and David
Yep.
DiGilio.
So it is based on a book.
Oh,
Based
and
on real
Taylor
life.
Kirsch is in it too.
Yep, and that's why. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did I say that? If I did, yeah, I
Well, I
meant.
thought you were talking about him in Zero Dark 30.
Well, he was in. I didn't bring it up, but I did know he was in the show. Yeah, so he
Yeah.
was in um, Lone Survivor with Mark Wahlberg, and then
Oh, that one. That one. Okay.
and then he's with Chris Pratt in that one. Well, yeah, that is another one where it's based on a Navy. I think Jack Hart is like the writer producer, so I think he lived it, and then
Right.
it's how he interacted with his buddies and everything in these different special forces units, and obviously they have some leeway for entertainment purposes, but
Right.
I heard a lot of it is just kind of spot on as far as their mindset and situational training and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
It's wild. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that season.
you reminded me of something I was going to say earlier. I forgot what exactly we were talking about, but the idea that you have some stuff that's based on real events and it can be really impactful, but there's also some stuff that's just based on people's experiences, like you were saying. So you might have like a complete work of fiction, right, like Star Wars, but it might be you might take inspiration from other life experiences for the plot of that, right?
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that give stories weight and depth. And like I would say like a lot of recent stuff, it's very surface level. Um, as far as the writing goes, it just falls flat in so many ways. But a lot of the older stuff is
Well, yeah, like you
so
said,
much
you
better.
based it on real life experience, and it's probably
Yeah,
not intentional that way, but that's what you kind of bring to the table as
yeah.
a writer, director, producer, whatever it is, as
And
opposed
now
to
I'm yeah, now I'm putting two and two together, and I'm thinking if they just brought in a bunch of like fresh college grad writers, they have no life experience.
yeah, and I think that's what we're getting right now with the MCU,
That's
with
so unfortunate.
a lot of these shows and movies where it's like,
Yeah,
okay, like you're onto something, you just don't have going back to the Patriot, the wisdom. It's like,
right.
kid, I get it. You're in this position, in this role, it filling a need, but you don't have what it takes yet. And
Yeah,
then now, I mean, now I'm kind of reflecting back and telling myself my own medicine. Like, when you're a teenager in your 20s, or, you just think kind of have an idea of how the world works, or what you want to
yeah,
do. And you just kind of get, Mike
yeah,
Tyson says, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
yeah. I love Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Not to,
What's
I don't want to go on another tangent, but Mike Tyson Mysteries is a great Adult Swim cartoon. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It
I'll
has
write that
a
down. We'll talk about it later.
Norm Macdonald plays a talking pigeon.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
I'll watch anything that has Norm Macdonald in it. I
oh
thought I've
dude,
seen a lot of his stuff, but man, he's got
it's the 15-minute Adult Swim style short cartoon that was on. But Mike Tyson plays himself. His voice.
okay.
He voices himself, and he is not afraid to make fun of himself in so many cases. He's
That's
great.
great.
He has a great sense of humor. But yeah. So what, you want to start wrapping it up?
Yeah, I got one last one.
Okay.
So this is the most, I guess you call it, realistic. So have you heard of Act of Valor?
Oh man, when did this come out? I don't think I have.
I want to say like 10 years ago. So
Valor.
it's
Who's
real
in it?
life. So you can look it up. But basically, the idea is these are actually the real Navy SEALs are in this movie, and it's out. They're playing a fake story, obviously for entertainment purposes, but these are not traditional actors. They're actual Navy SEALs that
Right.
are doing a lot of these same stunts, and in the story, and playing out their own um, kind of life experiences, like I guess with family
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
the orders and positions. And because like special for like when I was in, I like we would deploy for a year, and it would just be a full kind of plop over here, do this operation. Where special forces, they're deploying, they're either training or they're deploying just constantly. That's all they do. That's their job, is
Right.
to all different parts of the world. They basically go to places before there's actual wars and try to
Mhm.
keep a real global, a big scale war from happening. And
Right.
so it's really cool. It's kind of, they follow like drug cartels and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
so it's just a wild thing to think about. So this one kind of hits home because it's like uh there's a narrator, kind of going on for most of it, and
Yeah, I
he's
was gonna
kind of like,
ask, like, do they have speaking lines in it?
yeah, it's a normal movie. Like
Okay.
if I didn't tell you that they were at the actual Navy SEALs, you would think this is just like a
Like an
really good
indie
B
film.
movie. I don't know, or just no name actors.
Yeah.
But it's just very well done. I can't remember who the director. Okay, so it is based on like Tom Clancy. So it's an association with the Tom Clancy, probably like their production company and stuff
Uh,
like that.
says Mike McCoy and Scott Wow are directors.
Okay.
I don't know them.
I don't know, but they figure out a way to make a really good film. But it looks like, I wasn't special forces or anything like that, but the way I understand it, and I've heard and talked with people,
Mhm.
but it just like we talked about consulting and stuff like that. Like you can tell an actor what to do and how to do a certain, like going underwater. Like maybe you could see it in here. So like,
Oh
they
yeah.
drop down, and they got to be quiet and go underwater. You can try to teach an actor, how to do that, but it will never be the same thing as somebody that's been doing it for 10, 20 years.
So you,
And
if you've done it, you can tell the difference between somebody who knows what they're doing.
yep. And
Yeah.
then I mean, I've done some of this, training on a very small scale compared to
Right.
these guys, and I can see the difference in this movie compared to something like a Lone Survivor. And I'm not
Right.
saying Lone Survivor or something like that is bad, but it's
That's an extra level of realism.
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. So I suggest checking that out.
Yeah, I've got a big list now. Well,
Yeah,
I've
I mean,
added to my existing big list.
yeah, and that's kind of the going back to the meaning of this channel is to just either find new things, because I started separating out my DVDs as I've been kind of collecting them, and I'm like, okay, I need to separate. First, I separated them by genre, and I'm like, okay, wow, I got a lot of different genres, and I've seen most of these. I'm
Right.
like, now I want to separate them by have I seen it or not, and there's a lot more that I haven't seen than I have, so I'm just gonna kind of go one by one and kind of check those out, especially as we talk about them. So if other guys in our fellowship, it's like, oh, definitely check out this movie that I either passed or missed.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's kind of my plan with this channel. Have on different people that we can talk like you and I did on.
Yeah.
It'll probably be like multiple times a week, just because different people have different schedules. But yeah,
Okay.
man, if this time and day works for you, let's just kind of keep this up as long as it works.
Yeah, I think this was a great first episode. Can you see if anybody's in comments? I'm just curious.
I haven't seen any comments. Like I said, it's the new channel, and
Yeah.
I connected my Twitter, my X as well, but that's more of just people kind of pop in and see what's going on and pop out.
Yeah.
But
I pinged some people. We'll see if they catch the replay. But
yeah, I think I'll have to. Yeah, the replay. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Like I said, I'm learning all this behind the scenes things. I've been on camera before and talking, but
Right.
actually setting it up is a different world.
I think this is a great format. I think we had a great discussion here. I think with how much stuff you have to show off, and I have a limited supply, maybe having more guests on, we could do like a you go one, then I go, then you go again, then the other person goes, then you go again, and then the fourth person goes.
And this
Maybe
one
do
was
something like
definitely
that.
more of a theme,
Yeah,
wrapping
yeah.
up Memorial Day, which is great. But then other ones,
Yeah, I like that.
we can just do more of talking about just a current thing.
Yeah, that's another great idea. All right. So how do you want to wrap it up?
Yeah, let's just keep it evergreen, so nothing current right now. But yeah, just any last words of wisdom, or I guess what's your takeaway from the show episode?
Takeaway from this is I've got a lot of other military themed movies that I have a blind spot for, so probably need to get caught up on some of those. But I mean, there's just so much good content out there. I think there's like World War II. I think is the number one most used theme in movies, especially like Oscar bait movies.
Yep.
There's so much of it out there. There's so many good examples of the theme that we were talking about today, and I think my takeaway is I just want to go absorb some of those, and I'm kind of in a mood to watch some patriotic movies.
There you go. Yeah, my takeaway is just there's more quality things of the past, and I don't think that's that's an objective type thing to say. Just based on all of our conversations now, just the way the films are even made nowadays. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna focus on either ones I haven't seen before, especially if you've seen one that I haven't. I want to get that perspective too. So yeah, the more that we can do that, where one of us has seen and the other one hasn't.
Yeah.
Or
that's
or if you've seen it before, like a long time ago, and I just go and watch it, and then we can compare notes. I think that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's another perfect opportunity for some movie nights. I love rewatching RRR. That's
I got that on my list. So
that's my number one most recommended movie. But yeah, so I guess speaking of that, I'll be doing that on Sunday with Cloud, or just watching more 80s movies.
Cool.
If anybody catches this before Ballbusters, we're gonna have a poll. Oh man, it's already Thursday. Tomorrow on Ballbusters, there should be a poll for voting on which movie Cloud watches, and the options are gonna be. Give me 1 second. We got True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, okay, good one. Yeah, and that's
Tango
the
and
other thing too is like we'll do we'll do like either celebrities film people that have passed
yeah.
away too. So that'd be a good one. In the
Yeah,
past, we
topical.
talked about Val Kilmer and Gene Hackman. So just
Yeah,
going
yeah.
over that filmography. So look for those to happen too. And then
We just finished watching the Donner Superman movies, and what inspired that was when Gene Hackman had passed. So it took
okay.
us several weeks to get through them all, but
Yeah. Yeah, definitely relevant. Cool. Well, let's leave it right there, and we'll have a good
all right.
one. And just if you
Do you have anything else
can't
coming
hold it, you don't own it.
up? Do you have anything else coming up before you go?
Nope, that'll be it.
All right, cool. All right, yeah. Thanks for having me on. This was a great stream.
Outstanding.